Very good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
My voice is audible?
Please, namaskar, madam.
Namaskar.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good
This
morning.
is Musa from ISTD. I've made you the host. You can see if you can share screen.
Sure.
I can record, ma'am. Just give me a minute before I make you the host. Just a minute, making you the host. Ma'am, you can actually wait for 2 minutes. Some of them did not take the break. So, they were speaking to me. They just went. I said 10, we'll start. 2 to 3 minutes. 3 minutes more? Yeah.
Voice is very low, it seems.
Jagannath ji, ma'am has not started the session yet.
I was told that
Okay.
some people are taking
Okay.
break and coming back. So I'm waiting.
Okay.
You tell me if I can start, I'll start.
I think we should, madam, because the recording is already available. So, as you please. But I think we should start.
Good afternoon, everyone. Is my voice okay?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
madam.
you.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Before we go to our sessions today, and we have to bear with it because we have two sessions together, which we have missed the last thing. So we'll be continuing to do a small activity. Before I go, I think this was the last slide. If someone is on, please do mute yourself. If I can ask you. Thank you. This was the last slide that we talked about, Kurt Lewins and the force field analysis. Now we'll go to Edgar as a principal, and I said that I want more time. That's the reason I closed the discussion, the previous sessions when we talked about. Today, I think I have put two things in the chat box. If you can quickly look at the chat, and we will take a note of those two things. In the mid of each particular, let us say I will complete Edgar principle, and then John P. Cotter's 7 steps, as well as McKinsey's. All these are change in inventions and the thought process, the way that you can bring certain kind of change inventions into your organization. We'll talk about those things. And the meanwhile, we will take two examples of the case studies. We may not be able to run through the case studies as a case study that we do it in a very regular business school. But the point is, idea is to really chip into certain things which are very important, which match with our content called change and innovation. One is Cafe Vagnano as a cafe shop. It is a well-known espresso coffee brand, but it is not as well known as Starbucks all over the world. I repeat, Starbucks and Cafe Vergnano, which is an Italian 1864 and 81 mechanic. Ragnaji, please can you mute someone who's having talk at the back? Thank you. So those are two things. You are able to see the chat, right? Can you answer? Can you look back that chat?
Yes,
I have
ma'am.
posted two things.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah. So we will talk about the Cafe Vagnano as a brand overall. Why you and me are not all that aware of a Cafe Vagnano unless you travel outside and you see the Cafe Vagnano as a shop, as a shoppe. Or one more thing that is very predominant, that we all know about Starbucks. Because is it because it has come to India? Is it because it is everywhere all over the world, wherever you see? Or is it the way it is, is doing business, the way it is unveiling itself to the customers is different compared to what the philosophy of doing business as well as change management philosophy of Cafe Vagnano. If you see, Cafe Vagnano is much more older. It is from 1860s onwards. But the point is, not by then, when it is really established, by now, we all should have really talked about Cafe Vagnano as a mainstream topic. But we all talk more about Starbucks, very less about, rather very seldom you get to see people talk about Cafe Vagnano. Why is it so? Is it the change, or is it the philosophy? Is it the doing business of Cafe Vagnano? Is something wrong, or is it problem? It doesn't mean that it is not making profits. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have a very good brand image. It doesn't mean that it is not there in other countries, but it is not there in large countries, in large proportion. It is not reaching out to every country the way Starbucks is reaching. This is one scenario which is very appropriate for doing business and change and innovation and reaching to the customers and customizing. All put together, that will be very appropriate for us as a discussion. Hope you're all with me. You agree?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes? Yeah. The second one is one more thing, which is a very different sector altogether, but that is also called for a discussion, called Dreamliner of Boeing 787 Dreamliner, which went into a crisis when it has offered its services, and then it was in the initial stages, and that has become a very good a case study point for the entire academia, also for the business people to take into control. We'll just also look into 787 Dreamliner, some kind of pointers which became whistleblowers to the innovation as a R&D or even a case study for the change in innovation application, as well as ethical code of conduct sometimes, because the way they have actually collected the money well before the design was ready, when it was in there in the R&D itself, has taken 7 years more than what they promised in 5 years to deliver. That made them to give money back to some people. So it's all a kind of a messy thing. But that messy also is a great thing because you learn a lot. You can draw so many lessons of learning from those messy situations. Of course, they did come out of certain things, but that's a good bite for a discussion for all of us, those who are into a proper change in innovation as a class. Okay. Having said that, we will move down to our ADKAR as a principle. To make the ADKAR thing, or to make your change and innovation happen in your organization, you have to take control of certain things. You have to take account of certain things. And then the way that you proceed with change management, the way that you want to make sure that change is being acceptable, is a certain kind of steps that's a pre-running through the change process. The change actually happening. And post-change, taking the feedback. These three levels are the layers of the change management. When somebody conducts it with a lot of clarity and with a lot of, approachability, I think that would be successful. It's easier said than done because it is sitting in a classroom session and it's sitting in a very comfortable, cozy environment. We can draw as many rules and regulations or even theories. But the point is, in reality, when you get a position, when you get some kind of things of, denial on the floor from your own stakeholders, and how do you think that that's a bigger cause, there's a bigger value, there's a bigger proportion that is going to, impact, and you would like to convince, and how do you think that you can convince your own people with for a larger benefit and for a good of a business? And that's a challenge. That's a challenge, and that is where it is becoming very dynamic to address the issue of change as a philosophy in every organization. The specific sector has got its own specific challenges as we keep talking about it. Now, the Adkar model talks about you have to create, the first one is awareness. Do we need a change? And to what extent do you think that you and me as a company, we are ready for it, right? To what extent that we think that we can actually rip off so many things straight away, overnight, and go for a bigger changes? Are we ready for a bigger change? Are we going to go for a small steps, the baby steps? So what is your organizational health? That is financial health, as well as your R&D, as well as your, culture, all put together that talks about organizational health. And your organizational citizens, all of them, to what extent they will respond to what? Because there are some organizations where immediately the minute the change or some kind of daily routine is being changed, or even if there is a small email or announcement, there'll be so much of, resistance. There'll be so much of fight back. And then that is the culture. That is in the name of free spirit, in the name of free speech, in the name of democratic way of doing things, you may end up not able to do anything at all. Democratic way is good, but the point is, the more you open for the democratic ways, the more you have open the situations to discussion. Sometimes it really consumes a lot of time and you may not really end up with any good result because you're not able to convince everyone, and you may not be doing good, you may not be doing that kind of convincing to every part of your organization, because there will be somebody who will definitely get affected by it, because that's what it is, the whole reality is. So creating awareness at various levels and various modes of conduct, information, discussion, brainstorming, giving some workshops, giving some kind of awareness programs, telling them about the contemporary situations, telling them about your competitors, how they're actually sweeping the market. There's so many ways that an organization chooses, it depends upon, to make that awareness program or awareness creation, the way that you create in your organization. Next is desire. Do we have the kind of desire to change, right? I think we went down with so many examples of, like, ambassador. There was no desire for change to ambassador. In today's day, it has, because it lost a market. But when you are actually thriving, when you're there on the top of the game, do you have the desire to change, right? We discussed about the Bajaj. If you have the desire to change and you wanted to bring EV, why did you close the entirety of your scooters? Till now, people would have really have your scooters on the road, and suddenly the Chetak as a brand totally went off. And then you again want to come back with the Bajaj EVs. Fine. So it's rediscovering yourself, but you're experimenting with a very costly affair. So that's up to you, the way that you want to. So is there a desire for change? Do you have that kind of, gauge employees also, the way that they would like to change? As an example, Rasna, do they have a desire to change? They would have changed. But because today's world is not ready for a Rasna as a Rasna, because we're trying to take the pure pulps and pure drinks and pure fresh juices. When coconut water is available, why do we go for a formulated or a kind of combination of drinks, right? So apart from other aerated drinks there. So there's a huge, huge change that has happened last 25 years, but Rasna is stuck with its own. Of course, it still has the business B2B. But the point is, do you have the desire that ultimately that you want to rediscover, change, upgrade, and go upwards in certain way that your brand will become something which is very phenomenal, or you're competing in a market? So that's absolutely your decision. That is organization decision. Also, it should synchronize with the employees, your cohort. What are they saying? Do you think that they think that they can do it? And most of the organizations where you have massive level of manufacturing, you need to take the consent all of your employees, because they're the one who's implementing, they're the one who's actually dealing with the change on the floor, on the shop floor. So we cannot decide in the boardrooms and say that we will go ahead unless you get the gauge of your employees, the level of desire to change. Doesn't mean that if they don't show the desire, you will stop your change process. I don't think that business works that way, right? So it's somewhere we have to strike the midway, saying that, yes, we need to make that awareness programs and, strike the deals with the concerned stakeholders that this is what it is and we may have to change. We may have to revamp certain things. Now, how much of you think that you can do better? How much you think that we can do better? How much you think that we can actually, unveil certain things and we can actually dump certain things of old fashioned or old processes? Can we really shake hand with everything that we're doing, or can we actually do away with many of our things? And what is our level? What is our status quo today, that if at all there is a change process, can we do it? And how much of this is where exact assessment goes, mostly in the your charts of the statistical charts also. How much of process is now going into this, and what is the stock available, and how much that we can call off and how much we can take for a new. And if at all we are experimenting, maybe we can go for a pilot zone, right? Experimenting, but there is a desire to change. To what extent? So this is a desire component that we talk about. Next, knowledge. So provide training, empowering your people to go into that kind of foray that you're actually unveiling, that you're unleashing and discussing, right? So make sure that well before your change process, well before your change to implement, before 1 year itself or 6 months, it depends upon the sector specific, right? Please do make sure that you're actually creating that environment of empowerment. You're creating certain kind of training programs, modules where people are equipping. So if they are getting equipped with what they're supposed to do in the future course, and the certain kind of softwares or training programs or the how to do things, you are actually making them learn. That's a piece. That's a kind of mental piece that they get, because yes, yeah, there is a change. I have to do in a very different way from now onwards, but I'm being told, I'm being trained how to do it. So there's no problem. So there's a mental piece over here. Otherwise, there's a huge frustration, huge stress at the brain, because anything that I don't know how to do is an immediate stress. You all agree with it. Anything that I don't know how to do it is an immediate stress, and it can paramount to anything, collapse also mentally, because I'm being asked to do it and I don't know. And I have to perform, and I'm being assessed on my performance. These are critical stages where stress actually creep in, and people will they'll run away from the thing. That's where absenteeism takes more. That will hit the wall. So this where trainings where an institution or an organization takes very seriously. It may not give you immediate, it may not translate immediately into financial benefits, but everything that you're putting into your training will have an impact in a year or so, in a 6 months, because there will be a behavioral shift. There will be a kind of approach shift towards your process. There will be a shift towards the way that you do access things and answer back, and then approach to function. The entire function styles can be modified, can be rectified, can be soothed, and can be, completely redefined and rediscovered. That's where the training really makes it. So you're coaching, the way that you coach, the way you mentoring your employees, the way you are actually giving them the opportunity to equip with certain kind of knowledge, skills, and application oriented. I think that's a great. And you cannot reduce your investment. You cannot less your financial resources onto training and development, because it has its own impact. It has its own way. It has its own sentence, very strong way of getting results for you. So that's where knowledge, ability, schedule your practice of your thing, and then before the change is fully implemented. So it's like, pilot zone, and then you're trying to check and assess your whatever training programs that you went through. You're checking your ability. Yes, we have gone through that. Can we go for a first batch of it? Can we go for a first level of implementation? Then you check for it. So trying to get the ground reality, saying that, yeah, our training, our equipment, or whatever that we have brought in new, we got equipped with certain kind of knowledge and skills, then, and now we are implementing. When we are implementing, we're checking that whether it is falling into the desired results, and are we striking to that particular point what is required. So if it not, so maybe there are some kind of adjustments. Those adjustments, again, you can call for PDCA. What is it? Plan, do, check, act. So all the levels, and again, you go back to the cycle and say that, yes, we will do it, and we will do some corrections. We will implement, we will educate ourselves. Maybe there's some kind of loopholes we understood, but in the action, we are missing certain points. So there's a huge feedback assessment, again, going and planning and doing and check and action goes back. And that again gives you results, and you try to reiterate on it, and then reinforcement happens. Before the reinforcement, you're going for this particular trial and error kind of thing. And that is where your reinforcement comes. Once the reinforcement comes, I think that's a best place that you all are there to implement any change. Now, I'll stop over here. Have you ever come across a certain kind of small pilot experiments or anything that is being implemented in the pilot process, and that has impacted and that has really come very well, or that has sent very wrong signals and you went into a trouble, or there was a crisis that you all had to handle because the change was not implemented properly, or it was not going through the baby steps. It was overnight or a sudden thing, whatever it is. So you call it as a communication problem, you call it a kind of decision-making issue, you call it as a leadership style issue, whatever it is, that didn't go as an ADKAR orientation in your organization. So as an organization citizen, you felt like your trust was at question. They started having problems with the trust of the organization. You started having second opinions to whether to continue or not with that particular organization. And stress really heightened must have been in your thing. And then it would have led you to certain kind of decisions, whether you have decided, not decided, but that's a very good case of a discussion. Can anyone share any of your live examples of your case and so on? Yeah, Modak ji, boliye.
Ma'am, so in my organization during COVID, there was an instance where certain employees from a certain grade onwards were made to suddenly start filling timesheets. And and it was like, okay, we want to know where your time goes.
Yeah.
And the purpose of that, I don't think it was communicated well. It was more to see, okay, do we have people who have bandwidth to take on more responsibilities or to work cross-functionally better, and to and that's why there was a caveat of a certain grade and above, right?
Yeah.
To see, because at that particular grade and above, there is an expectation that the competencies would be a little higher than someone at a lower grade. But a lot of it was perceived as, okay, does my organization doesn't not trust me, and why do I have to give an account minute by minute of what I do? So I think that's an example that I can share.
And it's very sensitive, right? It's very sensitive area where accountability is being questioned in a very different way, right?
Absolutely.
And how did you all handle it? Basically, that's more important.
So the team that was in charge of the exercise, I think there was someone leading it. So she started talking more about it, but then ultimately the exercise was stopped because I don't think that the communication flow was very effective, because there was a lot of bad blood created within the organ, and the rumors and the gossip channels just start, and then it's difficult to stop.
And it fell, actually it didn't give the right results, and people really felt unhappy.
I think it did not give the right results at all.
See, very good. That's a very good example. Ganesh Ramji, can you also speak any people related process changes, if not communicated well enough, normally leads to a lot of bad blood? Yes.
Very similar. In fact, almost on the same lines, ma'am, when we are trying to, do the time tracking for our managers, exactly the same instance that we have currently faced about a couple of months back. While the intent was to, get the availability, and where people can, the managers and above can get into a strategic involvement rather than a tactical involvement. It was taken in a very wrong way in terms of why are we being tracked for our availability? We are not billable. Very, very similar instance. Then we had to go back and clarify certain things. Why are we doing this? And it was taken in a right way later on.
Yeah.
Absolutely the same instance.
Yeah. So it's before creating awareness really saves a lot of time where we don't have to do any postmortem at
Yeah.
the back of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else?
Ma'am, I can share one example.
Yeah, please.
And I think the appraisal cycle is a cycle where there's a midterm appraisal and there's a end year appraisal.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of feedback that the organization received saying that if there's a midterm appraisal, by the time the appraisal is conducted, hardly any time is left for us to improvise, and hence our end year appraisal results are spoiled.
Mhm.
So why can't we do something about it? So the organization said, okay, fine, we'll work on it. And they launched a program which, so instead of mid-year, they said it will be an everyday appraisal. That word every day caused so much of turmoil and panic because the employees thought, okay, now every day I'm going to get appraised. The manager's going to sit with me, tell me what is wrong. Manager said so much of work to be done, fill forms. We're talking about an organization with a scale of about 2 lakh plus employees. And that really caused a lot of panic. I think the communicators realized that the word every day actually made a very bad impact. So they changed it to every instance appraisal, saying that whenever there's an instance that you need to praise or you need to reprimand in those terms, you can use that kind of time to give a feedback to the employee, either telling him it's good job done or telling him that he needs to improve and give areas of improvement. And then you can document those so that at the end of the year, you don't have to struggle as a manager to tell the employee why his rating is so and so and why not so and so. And the employee also gets a justification throughout the year. So I think that one wrong communication, one word can actually have so much of impact on the morale of the employee. They were almost as bad dharna saying, oh, we don't want to get appraised every day. So I think that's a change example, and the communication, the way it was handled, doing a lot of manager communication, a lot of employee communication, doing kind of a series of learning series, saying, okay, this is what has to be done, this is how it will be done, is what I think helped us to bring that change. And now it's very successful. People have appreciated the fact that the organization wants employees to have enough time to improvise, then wait for it till the end of it.
I think, the communication or whatever announcement that we do, that we are trying to introduce, is it okay? If you have any concern, let us come back. So that kind of, apart from your town halls, the talks, the small talks and the small departments, the way that you connect, the way that you actually express, the room for expression and the room for anything to talk about, prior to any launch of any discussion, prior to any bigger things, creating that kind of atmosphere is a bigger gesture, and that saves us multifold levels of problems, because once the communication has gone wrong, that creates multifold discussions, and I think we cannot stop the ball rolling down for so many levels, and it can have a cascading effect. That's the reason whatever comes from that particular HR or the concerned manager or concerned higher ups, the way it is going down as a communication downward, has got so much of impact on the employee, because it can actually make things so well, and it can connect. It's like an organization glue, communication coming from down, coming from up is nothing but a glue. It connects. It also can bridge, because if that is not being handled well, of course, it is easier said than done, because it's not one single person dealing with the same communication. That communication passes on from various levels to layers, and then not everybody is so empathetic. Not everybody is very cautious. Not everybody is like, forward, and then it's actually they're not warning you. They're not actually looking forward certain things. They just want to do it. What? I have a job in my hand. I have to get things done. So I did it. What is wrong in it? So the people, those are actually very short-sighted in certain kind of conditions, they would really pick up certain fights, and they would say that, what did I do wrong? I have to do this. So I communicated in this way. I don't think that there's any wrong. So more than any work, it is an individual's perceptions. It is individual's personality which comes in your way that it's not happening. So that's the reason most of the organizations, when they want to implement change, Change itself is a big subject. The very change that employee is going to go through itself is a bigger task and bigger stress. On top of it, the agent or the person that you are actually going to put as an in charge, as the lead for the change is a bigger task. How many of you say yes to it? Yes?
Agree, ma'am, agree, yes.
Right? The one who's going to lead the change at every department, at every layer, at every structural position, are the way that you appoint them, the way that you give that particular responsibility to them, on what basis you have actually taken them, not only on the competency, also on their personal, ability, the way that they can build things properly, makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense, because the change agent, the kind of person, the character flows from your words, right? The kind of person that is going to lead the change will make a lot of difference. The way that they are very cool, they know, they're open. They are also very open for their own criticism. Even if you go upfront by opening the door and say that, what is it you have sent a mail? They may not take bash you against back, but they will also say, okay, fine. If that has come to you, maybe I'll try to. It's not that we're trying to say that everybody has to take. No. If the agent, the one who's actually acting as an agent, is not a giver, but is a taker, then you have a problem. Something resonates with statement? How many of you can agree with that? What is a giver and what is a taker? The taker is always, I want you to do it, so I want you to respond to me, react to whatever I'm saying, then give the results back. But I'm not a giver. What is it? I don't care what you're going through. I don't care what your response to this one. I don't care how does it affect you. All I need is my desk. I have this job and you are in my team. I want this to be get things done. That's all. So most of the takers are the one who actually may create a lot of, hustle, and then they may put us into trouble because they're not people oriented. They're only production oriented. That is, they're only work oriented. They're not having concern for both. In the managerial grid, in the leadership that we talk about, people orientation, production oriented. If you balance both, like people plus production, people plus work, and you have that particular via media striking the balance between, yes, work is also important, people are also more important. So how do you strike the balance between both and try to make things better? And if you have that kind of holistic approach as a person and you're being nominated as a change agent, I think the results are good. So the most of the happening of a discussion are supposed to go through who are my change agents, my torchbearers. Like, because at every point of the time in organization, the top people cannot be there, however broad views that they have. For example, you get to see Tata's tweets or Anand Mahindra's tweets, very generously, very emotionally, and very down to earth kind of responding to even humble backgrounds of people, and then the way that he talked, but not necessarily that kind of compassion or an empathy or a kind of holistic approach, and a very big gigantic personality is there for every change agent that you have taken. But if you make sure while you are selecting those change agents who are implementing your change, you put all of your efforts in. At least it may take time, but I will not go further because change is a bigger thing. The thing that we're going to roll over itself is a big thing. And on top of it, the one who's going to roll that particular thing and implement is the right person it should be. So a lot of effort and time should go, and a lot of discussion, selection process should go into the way that you are changing things through a person as a change agent is very important, critical. Any organization who has made that kind of beautiful decisions of change agents, preparation of that particular change agent, bringing that kind of face, the one who's actually have got that kind of, personality and the characteristics that a change agent should have, understanding, people friendly, and communication, better communication, life experiences, better life experiences, a better seasoned person. I think I'm just trying to make it more of a general, but it has its own value. Agree or not? How many of you are saying, see, most of the time, change, the way that we are going to change itself is a discussion. And on top of it, the worst things must have really rolled down on the show floor, because the person who is preparing you for a change, the agent who is actually implementing, or the lead who is actually leading that particular change itself is a critical issue for you. How many of you say agree with that? The whole thing is about discussion. right? Most of the organizations have successfully gone through those channels because they pay a lot of attention to who's going to lead this particular change. So the selection of those people are very critical because the top people cannot be there everywhere to take things better, but these are the only one implementers. How many of you say negate it or yes to it, or you've got something else to talk about it? Quick. Before I go to Kota's 8 steps of change.
So, ma'am, if I may just one liner.
Yeah.
I think change agents, as they are normally termed for any big project that organizations take, they really play a part in either making or breaking the project. And I have seen examples where agents have actually, because they're from business, they really do not, especially for HR practices, they do not really care what practice HR is trying to bring in. They only want, as long as my work is simple, I don't have to do too much of hassle. So when you try to tell them a complex process, according to you, it's simple, but for them, it is too much complex. I think they badmouth the project very badly, and that can actually get the entire project into a mess. So choosing the change agents and kind of educating them and again and again telling them how important it is for the organization from a global perspective and all of that, only that can save such projects. Otherwise, if it is not in their interest, as you rightly said, they might not do a good job, or even if they don't want to do a good job, they might do a half-hearted job, and their teams clearly know that the manager is not supporting this. So yes, they
Because,
do.
yes, I agree. Because once you have rolled down the timelines, how much of change is going to happen and what we're supposed to do, how we are supposed to do. Every day, employee is encountering that change. He has to put himself into new things. He has to learn. On top of it, he's encountering the new phase or the new foray he is entering into for a new things. That is a learning phase that he is supposed to. That is uncertain. And then uncertainty will irritate them. Comfort zone is gone. Not knowing is irritating. Your skills are no more that appreciated because you have to have the new skills, and those new skills, having that new skills, equipping them and then calling them that part of your prowess, it will take time. So all that legacy that you have enjoyed, that you are so good in something, is now today you are a zero, and again you are starting for a new thing. That is not easy for a mind to take, because any uncertainty for is a very, very insecure. So that insecurity, anyway, they're battling. The battles are happening there in the mind. On top of it, the person that they are encountering on a daily basis, the way that they are actually wielding the entire change process makes a lot of sense, which makes them comfortable, give certain kind of cushion or a discussion, or it will put them even completely out of the proportion. Then things will blow. And then people, you may have witnessed many people putting their resignation down and moving, because there can be a lot of, going out, a lot of employee turnover, because you have brought in some things which are not properly communicated, which is not properly put place, which is not, people are thinking that the hand holding is missing. People are thinking that that particular impact for certain things are missing. Maybe that's a story, but all these particular theories that we're talking about in implementation, it all comes to one thing, that the way that you're choosing change, the way that you're choosing change layers, the way that you are actually trying to increase the intensity of the change, and on top of it, who's going to lead it, makes a lot of sense. To sum it up, okay? I have a chat. Who's that? Yeah. Bipulji, can you explain? I like the statement. Re-establishment are painful before fruitful, of course. Re-engineering. Please do tell us, sir. What is your opinion? Can you speak? Your mic is okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Ma'am, because we understand that because there are lots of technology changes and learnings and skill needs to enhance by the employee. So the establishment is a very big task when it takes place, because I several times I went for the training in automobile industry, and when they changed this BS model from BS3 to BS4, BS6, so there were lots of change which happened inside the organization, and we felt that the pain behind this, that how employees are feeling uh, before this reestablishment. So But again, it was very fruitful later on. So, this was the kind of experience which I had.
Thank you. Yeah, as you said, it's right. Yeah. It's not that easy. It's painful when you rediscover, re-engineer, and reshape things. Yeah. It's easy to start something new, but it is very difficult to process the new things from the old and then cut off certain old things. And that's where the challenge is. That's where the whole management, that's where the leadership is all about. That's where the mentoring and complete hand holding and all. That's where your
Yes.
entire process of communication, ease of doing all matters. And that's where ranking and assessment of an organization is based on the way that they're treating in the helm of affairs, how they are conducting themselves as the entire, all the people, those who have got their branch chips on their shoulders, how they are actually functioning and how things percolate down to each and every person matters a lot. And that again comes to one word called organization culture. How your organization is dealing with change is all matters. And it all falls into a basket called the culture of the organization. How do they respond and how do they consider? How do they value the time and how do they respect your employees and how is that they're actually functioning to consider your employees' emotions and value system. So the whole value system is at stake whenever the change. It's not just change. It's not that just equipment or a technology shift. It is also the way that you take people into consideration and you want them to go along with your emotion of the board or the directors. That's what it is. Now, John P. Cotta's Steps of 8 Model Stage is a very famous one. There's a book called on John P. Cotta's 8 Stages of Change. Now, he says that first one is create emergency or urgency. So how do we create urgency? Because it depends upon, let's say that we have taken we have got a very good example of Yahoo on one hand and Nokia on another hand. Both of them could not create urgency for their shift of a change the way that's supposed to do. Because at every milestone, they were happy with what is happening, but they were not looking for the further. So there is no need for change, they thought. They were actually, there was a bit of complacency for them, the way that they function. We can just do a case study on them, the way they function. But did it actually last long? No, we all know. We have seen the history. We have seen the things, the way that they've fallen down, right? So urgency creation is like, although you feel that there is no urgency for you to change, although you know that you are really doing good, but that happy space may not be there forever. You may not be there in that happy space forever because market is very dynamic. And things are very dynamic and your competitors are actually unveiling and unleashing themselves on a daily basis. They're doing 1,000 things which you're not doing. Maybe you're not able to do it, or they're doing 1,001 things which you're not doing. So anywhere, even if 1% that they're doing extra, you are less of it. So how do you manage things? So that's the only way is creating urgency to change. There is no permanency the way that we are doing things. There is always a change. That kind of code of conduct, that kind of a mental preparation, if you're able to create in your employees, saying that this is for now. We are doing now, our game is good and we are on the top of the game, but not this is the end of it. We may have to get ready for the future. The future is anything not today is a future. Sometimes within 6 months, sometimes within 10 years. In some sectors, it is just on a daily basis, it's a future course because it's changing. In rapid speed, it's changing, right? If you're into derivatives and commodities and options and stock market, and then your futures and forward contracts, your forex management, it's daily, it's immediate, right? Everything is history. Just half an hour ago, what has happened is history. Because something else, massive level, there are changes. Then you didn't understand. You have not taken what two things, Iran and Iraq or Iran and Israel, what they're happening, or your Russia and Ukraine. Whatever you are not considering may have an impact on your decision. So there's massive changes happening. That's too dynamic. So creating an urgency as an attitude, as an environment is something which is important when you are going to go for a change. That's the first most important thing. Although you have a name template for everything, but the point is, it's also a very inside job how sometimes some people can actually hire a consultant to create that kind of urgency and tell that particular thing what you don't. say on a daily basis. Sometimes people can create some kind of discussion saying that if you do the same thing, I think you may lose your job. Or if you do the same thing, I think we may not get that kind of efficient results. So some consultants will come and assess the situation and say that we may have to change this. You're comfortable right now, but you may have to change it. And this is what the wording is. And that the industry is going in a very different direction and we may have to catch up with it. So it's an internal discussion. Many times internal managers can do it and would do it. Also, you can hire some people to create that kind of urgency, because sometimes the new face, the new person who doesn't have any baggage with you and you don't have a history with them, they come and tell you a very altogether very different thing. You may not feel insecure. That's a very interesting point. And most of the thing that we're going to change, we're going to implement the change philosophy. A lot of psychological combination, cognitive measures are very, very important. So most of the time, if you are happening to listen to something which is very direct, that you are being criticized or assessment is being given. If a new person, a very altogether a very different stranger is walking into your room and as a consultant, in the name of consultant, is giving you a very, very blatant assessment and a feedback, you may be feeling bad, but you may not feel that bad because she's not connected to you. You don't know. You don't have any transaction. You don't have any, transactional thing between you as an emotional transaction. But the same thing your immediate manager or somebody who's known to you for the past 10 years is giving you, it will affect you further. And you will not forget those discussions for the day or for years, because it has got a kind of historical connection. So similarly, that's the reason people do bring in certain consultants, certain experts to talk to about this is our phase of life. This is where the entire organization pace is right now, but we may have to increase the pace in a very different direction because a competitor is doing. So this discussion, sometimes internal in-house people can do it, or an expert can be called for, right? Here I can say that very different way of dealing with certain kind of situations. There was a movie called Hollywood thing, Up in the Air, George Clooney's. He acts as a consultant to walk into certain companies, and his job is to lay down the people. I mean, he's completely cutting. It's like a pink slips. His lot of massive layoffs are happening, and then he's being hired for that. It's extremely doing that particular job, and that's a very interesting movie. And every discussion and every particular encounter of an employee with him is an anecdote for an HR, a learning and development, or entire organization. How smooth and how very delicate and how sensitive this particular things can happen, because it's lives, it's people, it's their emotions. Sometimes it may have an impact on their body. Suddenly they may collapse. Some people are so sensitive, psychosomatic, because they may it's all whatever is happening in your brain, it may have an impact for your heart. Suddenly you go down with an impact of heart attack or whatever it is, you may faint. So how do you take it? How do you actually talk about those things? And how do you say that this is no longer it's going to function in this way? We're going to go for a new phase of it. And this communication is something creating an urgency, creating an awareness, creating a kind of professional functional talk, where you are actually convincing people with your narration, with your logic, with your facts, and with your numbers, with your results, with your strategies of a competitors, as well as you comparing to where you are, and telling about the global scenario, how the world is happening. And you cannot really do business like this. It's not your job, it's the entire organization can be wiped off, and we may not be there in the map at all for tomorrow, because if you don't change now. And these are things that are very certain. These are things very, very clear. The way that you function, the way you talk. So creating urgency is one big step. As I say, it can be done by internal, but choose people. Those are very, very eloquent and very, 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 very compassionate and very, very technical in their talk, but they're not emotional. They can deal with anything, and they're very good negotiators. There's a huge course on the technical prowess being put into how you become a better negotiator, how you become a better storyteller, is also a very interesting thing. So do take people who are very seasonal, very, very seasoned professionals, They have seen life, they've seen multiple things, they've been there on the multiple roles of, talking to various categories of people. They've dealt with certain issues and they've got that particular past records of they've dealt successfully. They did slice certain things properly. Please do bring in those people onto board, and they should be on board. And then 75% of work is done by putting the right person, the right kind of perspective to go ahead by creating that urgency. And please do put the right people to create that kind of scenario and talk to the company's employees in whichever fashion that you want. That's the first and the most and the very, very important begin with. Okay. Next is a form of powerful coalition. You're taking the assessment of internally, how many are saying yes, how many are saying no, how many are saying okay. So these are promoters of your entire cause. People, those are promoting the cause, they're standing almost like you. They're also feeling almost like you as an organization. They all say, yes, we're all up for it. So they're all promoters of that idea or a change or that particular technology shift or whatever shift. The people those are not promoting, they're completely against it, right? So they're the critics and they're the one who are actually opposing it. So please do make sure that you're taking care of these two, both of them, and then try to understand how do you think that you can convert all of them, those are against, to become the promoters of your idea? How do you think that that particular group of people are more in number or less in number? Promoters are very less and people those are against it are very more, and you may have to do a bit of homework here. There's a legwork there that your operations are not yet complete in talking to them, maybe in converting. And how do you think that you can make people to move on to become the promoters of your idea? That is where you're creating a powerful coalition between the departments and functional cross-functional people, and many of them were saying yes. But many of them are saying that, yeah, when it comes, we can vote for it, but we may not say definitive. They're not definitively definite now, but you can convince them. So it takes time because you cannot roll things, immediately unless you've got a good number of people saying yes to the change that you're talking. It's a massive exercise. You may have to roll down some kind of Google documents today. In today's day, you've got so many other tools, apps, or any other kind of, interactive apps that can come back to some voice messages, some kind of surveys, you name it. You have certain kind of exercises that you're supposed to do, and make sure that you're trying to create that kind of powerful coalition of a team inside, right? It's like creating a climate of change. 3 layers. The first layer that we are trying to talk about, the pace of the organization will change, and the phase is nothing but creating a climate of change. In the creating of a climate change, right? Change of the whole organization process. The one is create urgency. The second one is form a powerful coalition. Is like all of them, those who are saying yes to it, are becoming your promoters of the idea. Then create a vision for change. So all of them, if you can rewrite what is our change philosophy, all of them that you can actually think and put words into that particular thing. What is it we want to change? Where are we losing? Like, your KRAs and key result areas and KPIs, key performance indicators. Make sure that everybody talking about KPI, not that you are sending KPIs and KRAs to them, but let them also rewrite their KRAs. Let them also put more of a muscle into it and flesh into it, the ideas of a KRAs and KPIs, right? And then let them also come out that if at all we're changing, this is what is needed. If at all we're trying to make sure that our process is going to be very different from what we were doing for the past 20 years, this is what we're going to be supposed to do. So your KRAs and your KPIs are being defined, redefined, discovered, discussion is happening, and they're being, put into a box, and now this is going to be action plan. Maybe there are people, those are promoting the idea and they're standing for what KPI, and they will definitely deliver because they're the one who defined it. They're the one who urged for it. You proposed it and they defined it, and redefining happened and fine tune happened. Sophisticated way of doing things is you have talked about it, right? So create a vision for change is the way that you want to see the change happen. You talked about it. You made people to talk about it. You made people to take ownership for it. You made people to understand, let us do a complete change of certain things, and then let us redefine, rewrite certain things. And that went on very well, right? Before I go for a next level, how many of you think that this particular activity was happening, or it's always being taken a very hush way in a very rushed manner. Or that's the reason you get stuck in the second level called enabling the organization. How many of you say yes? Or in many ways, this particular thing is not being given that kind of importance. Creating a climate of change, preparing people, creating the urgency, powerful correlation means taking the account of how many are saying yes, how many are saying no, and then how do you convert them. That particular baby steps to make the climate of creating the climate of a change is not that seriously being implemented, but people would try to come and say that this is what we are. Maybe, uh, for the sake of doing it, maybe they will create 1 hour or 2 hours of an awareness, but later on it's all, different case of it. How many of you say yes to it? And the whole program fails, the whole change fails because you haven't created the climate change. That's the beginning of it. That's where Kotter has given 3 stages and 3 layers of workshop activities that you are supposed to do. If at all you're very, very clear, and if you think that the desired results are supposed to be like this, no compromise on results means no compromise on creating the climate of change. That's what the verdict from the John P. Kotter. Okay. I stop here. Anyone who would like to share anything? The planning and the creating of this particular thing. How is it happening in your organization? You see any difference? Or you agree with me that very less and very weak preparation happens many times, and that's where you get to trouble? Please to share.
Ma'am, I'd like to share. So in my organization, whatever changes I've seen in the last few years
Mhm.
have been more people policy related.
Okay.
For the betterment of people policies, and hence typically what happens is that there is an annual Kincentric survey or an employee engagement survey done by Kincentric, and the results of that are discussed within the cohorts.
Mhm.
And then there is nothing that happens.
Mhm.
And then maybe after 8 months, when the annual town hall happens, there is a new policy which is formulated and rolled out.
Oh. Mm.
So in the middle, there is no, so typically I have not seen a negative impact of it so much because the changes have been pro people and hence it has been accepted well, like a paternity leave or LGBTQ plus policy and all of that. But if it, like you're saying, if the change is critical, for example, there was this one time when we moved from a time-based work to output-based.
Okay.
So it became from fixed 9 hours to flexi hours from 8 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. And then you have to ideally clock in 9 hours. But even if you clock 7 hours and leave, it's okay because we're interested in the output. Now, again, it's again pro people, right? So there's no backfire on of that from the people, except for the fact that some people will take advantage of this and just leave after 7 hours.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to appraisal time and the output is low, and the manager goes and sees the timesheet saying that, oh, you've been leaving after 7 hours and your output is not matching the expectations, etc. And then the appraisal number goes low. So it's that once in a year hit. And there is, yeah, I don't know if I've given the right example, but
Yeah, but it's a very tricky thing, right? When
Yeah.
if it is output based and then you are still counting on hourly base, then there is let's not call it output based. You should have tracked them the way they have contributed to the results. How many number of projects they have delivered and so on, not by the number of 7 hours or the login or clock time or clock out time, right? Agree?
Yeah, so basically, I'm only referring to that when the output is not matching the need,
Mhm.
and then to support that, one would say that okay, you're not putting in. It seems like you're not putting in enough time, while the policy says that okay, 7 hours and you can leave, but your output is not being met.
Yeah.
That way.
True. Yeah. And how did it go? Means people still will have discomfort and it closed well. It went on well. How did it?
No, so this is the policy change happened a few years ago, and
Mhm.
it still stands. the policy has not gone back to fixed 9 hours or anything like that. But I'm just saying, when it actually happens, so in the first year appraisal, it hits, right? And then suddenly you realize that, oh, okay. And then you still have people who are working 10 and 11 hours a day to achieve that output, even if it's, not time-based.
Yeah. Anyway, it's, as you said, it's people-based. It's like, it's for people. So it's like flexi hours is always welcome. So people, those who are doing it, maybe they would have adjusted themselves, but they also would have taken more precautions so that it will not hit their performance appraisal at the end of the year, right? It's a balance thing. Yeah, yeah, great. Thank you. Anyone else wants to share? Yes? Creating the urgency and creating right kind of atmosphere and climate is the most important aspect of your planning and thing. Okay. Yeah. I'll continue. Or anyone wants to change? Please.
So, ma'am, I can give an example.
Please.
Recently, we used to operate in a hybrid model, and then we made that change where we said that in a month, we moved from 4 days working from office to 6 days working from office. So still it was not getting implemented. People were taking it lightly. So to create an urgency, it was communicated to the senior management, and which was then drilled down to the employee level, that in case if people are not able to complete their 6 days in month from office, it would impact their bonuses, and it would impact their year-end reviews.
Oh.
And then whenever there is an exception, there would be people where it doesn't need, they don't need to come to office, or there would be some offices where we are not fully equipped in terms of infrastructure. So those kind of exception would have to be taken. It is up to the business head to give those exceptions, but to create that sense of urgency, it was being told that if this is not happening, if this practice is not taking, if employees are not coming to office, and if there is no exception, then it would impact the bonuses and the ratings, and that's how it's created an urgency, and people then started following it.
Right. So unless you bring in certain kind of pointers, some kind of, things, it won't get into serious mode, and only then you will have the kind of urgency. Right, right. Very nice. Yeah. So since I'm talking to all the professionals who are into that field, and that's the reason I take a break, because we don't want to make it a theoretical, although we're talking about a theory here, but you're all practicing in many ways, same thing that what you talk about. So that's the reason I always wanted it's a two-way discussion. I hope you're all appreciating the discussion more, and then we go for the theory. Hope it's fine for all of you, right? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So the third one is creating a vision for change, as I said, creating those rewriting and all your vision statements and redefining what you want to do and so on, or your rules and procedures, policies, and that's a new thing, and then that makes a lot of difference. Now we move on to enabling the organization. How do you enable the organization? There again, one or two phases of it as you're streamlined the way that you do it. Communicate the vision. Now, after you have created that particular new vision, new rules, and then creating a vision for change, how do you want to do it? Redefining your statements, right? Rewrite. Then you are trying to talk about the communicate the vision. So you're communicating it. How do you communicate it? Either you prepare a logos or emblems, or you're trying to brainstorm, or you're trying to involve people, or everybody will come with the slogans, or they would like to make sure that they have their own set of to-do things that they have taken as part of their action plans, right? Their mission statements, right? Vision is this, and to achieve that, we are all supposed to do, it will cut down to certain things, and we are all supposed to implement these many things. There are so many takers in it, and they have taken a lot of responsibility, and that particular action plan is being, segregated and bifurcated into some more other sub levels of the action plans, and being again, given to pieces of the jobs to people. And then that is where you're creating the vision or communicating the vision to make sure that it is going to become an action plan. And then in the process of the communicating the vision, you're trying to talk about how and why and where and who, all of them, all your 5 Ws and 1 H you're talking, who's going to do it and why is it going to be done and how is it going to be done? Where is it going to be done, right? when is it going to be done, and all the process that you're trying to talk about, ultimately it goes into an action plan. It's converted, right? It's converted and it is being seen very properly. The blueprint of the action plan is being discussed, which is matching with your vision and the mission, and all the action plans, which is, coinciding with your mission plans and vision, is being part of the employee's daily basis job. So all the jobs that you're doing in a mundane way is being aligned with your vision and mission, is being connected to what you want to achieve by 1 year or 2 years or 6 months, and whatever the dedicated goal that you're trying to talk about it. Those people, those are designated to certain jobs. Those people, those are designated to deliver certain things. Those people, those are designated as a change agents, as well as the monitors who monitor the entire thing, or the mentors of the thing. Those people, those are implementing the whole thing, are the one who are actually going through this particular, creating the whole vision, and then communicating the vision and implementing the vision. This is a particular activity, right? So this is whole a kind of a layer of a learning process and layer of action plan, layer of the implementation orientation, right? Now, you're going for an empower of the action. How do you empower? Once you've created that particular agency, once you've communicated, once people have taken responsibility, once they understood what is their piece of work, what is their share of contribution, they started doing it, then they started implementing it, and then you understood the results of it. And each result, you're trying to go for a flag and say that this is what the result is. The desired result is 99.9. The desired result is yellow color. The desired result is red color. The desire is this one. Whatever the desired result you are supposed to achieve, once somebody has achieved it, once somebody is close to it, we will have a red flag like this, or a green flag like this, or whatever results that you talk about, we will try to complement it. Then you're trying to say that empower action means, yes, you have done well, and we will try to reinforce it. As an organization, you are creating those particular windows where you will call it, this is what is a perfect process, we achieved it, and we will confirm it. So your SOP is redefined. Your standard operation procedure as a practices are all being redefined, and say that now that we are going through this particular software, now that we are going to add these combinations, now that we are actually trying to do these components, and we have selected, we have started an action plan, we got it, we implemented, we got the batch, now we got the result. The result is matching to the desired level. Then we call it, this is the standard. Now the standard operation procedure is now this one, 0.1 to 0.210, and we all have agreed upon in the boardrooms, in the process, in the workshops, in the shop floor. Now we have implemented. Now this is the batch which is out, and now it's matching. And this is what the contemporary business is happening there. And all the competitors are also into the same foray, and we have got it. And we waited for these results. Call it. Now, what are you trying to say? You called it, and you made it, and you try to confirm it. So the confirmation reinforcing the thing has happened. Now people will actually say that this is what. If this is what we know, and we are being empowered, and we are being trained, and we have done it, and experimented, implemented a batch of a production. But people say yes. Internal quality people said yes. Your QCs and QAs have given certification, yes, we can go ahead. That means all is left is replicating. That means repeating the action. For the repeating the action, you need the reinforcement, right? So the reinforcement has happened. When the reinforcement is happening with a lot of technical data, statistics, confirmation, the charts that you provide, then this is the result. And a lot of analysis went into it. People will go because it's scientific approval of what you have done. Right? Scientifically, you're approving, yes, what we have agreed upon in the boardrooms to change, what we have actually envisioned, what we have actually debated, what we have actually redefined our vision plan, what we have thought about bits and pieces of work process is being, segregated, it's being allocated, and people started acting upon it. The action plan went on, the mission is getting done, and now we see that the result implementation went on well. Now this is where reinforcing, right? This is where the action plan is being completely done, and we are happy with it. So we cover, and we can go for a repeat of it. Means we will continue, and this becomes our standard. This is going to be our new SOP. Now this is what everything will fall in. Whether it is a 5S or a 6S or Kaizen or TQM, all of them are going to fall in line with our new vision, new change policy, and our new TQM or a Kaizen principles. Now that is where our new SOP. Now you're reinforcing. Now that is where empowering is happening, right? That is where every nook and corner, every action of your company, every particular new aspect of yours, every particular process has gone its own limit, and it's got its own new way of doing things that's being approved, that's being tested, that's being implemented, that's being experimented, that's being reinforced, that's being taken as this is the desired result, and you call it and you certified it. So the lot of validation went into it, and that is where people feel, yes, I'm being empowered, because I was worried last 1 year before going into this process. I got into training, multiple 2 to 3 layers of training programs being given to me, and I'm being asked to implement, and I did it, and my implemented process, that particular product or a batch of thing or a work or a design or whatever it is, gone for a testing. And QCs and QAs have given their flags. And again, I worked on it. Now, finally, it is got improved. Now, again, it's got being finally certified that we are on to the right track. Now we call it results. Now we are being reinforcing. Now I can complete the process by repeating it, by redoing it, and replicate the same process. Now I am feeling comfortable. That particular stress of uncertainty, that particular stress of insecurity, whether I'll be okay or not, has gone now, because now I'm being certified. Now I'm being said, given, okay, you can go for it. So as a production manager or a process manager or the designer or the one who's actually carrying the work, I feel more good about it, because my insecurities with the new job, with the new process, with the new design was there at the back of mind. Although I've received 2 to 3 trainings. This is what happens in the human brain. You all agree with it. As long as it is new, as long as it is not being confirmed, the validation comes from the floor or the operations people, and then you are being given that particular certification saying that yes, you go ahead, we have really touched that particular limit and that particular point that we are required to. You have got that, maybe that settles down. That is a piece. That's a piece that happens in there. You're looking for that piece in your brain, because last 1.5 years, yes, God knows how many training programs you went into. Every training program is actually empowering you. It is actually making you equip many more things, but it is not translating into that somebody said yes to it. Somebody hasn't said yes to it. Somebody hasn't given you that certification that you are doing the right thing. You are on the right thing, or your results are really making the desired thing, and the results that you have actually produced is matching. Go ahead. This hasn't happened. So still there is a stress. Still there is kind of uncertainty. Still there is insecurity. Still a lot of tension. Still a lot of, questioning self in your process of that is there. That is where professional hazards happen. And then these are occupational hazards, right? Each occupation has got its own, difficulty. So we do have a lot of issues with the new thing happens and creeping in, you may not be able to comfortable. So this is where after a certain point of the time, the certification has come internally as well as third party has given you a certification saying that, yes, you are on the track and we have really achieved what we are supposed to according to the new thing, and we'll go with the SOP. Fine. That's fantastic. Physically, production is good. Mentally, you are also feeling good because your insecurity is gone. That's a proper empowerment going on, right? Now, most of the organizations, I feel that most of them, those who are into critical analysis and then critically applying those particular stages of implementation of their process, do go through these things. There is no excuse for it. When you're into massive production, you cannot have any excuses. There is no whims and fancies of doing. You have to go by the book of the rule, and then you have to go by that particular rule, whatever it says. You have to go by that particular process, what it asks for. So there is no personal emotion or a personal choices into it. So mostly the results across the sector, most of the organizations will have the same process, right? And if there is a change, everybody will go for the same change. So if there, let's say, you all have seen, we all are seeing today, when the smart screen hit the market, everybody will go through the same thing because the standards are the same. Almost everybody has to do the same thing because the process is the same, because the technical revolution that has happened of that particular thing is of that level. You cannot have your own choice of it. Maybe you will come to the market in a very different way. Somebody has come early, somebody has come later, but definitely all of you there in the market. As long as that particular technical revolution or the standard or the new version of it that we are talking about, we have no choice because we have to go with that particular rule or the technicalities of that particular thing. You have to maintain that kind of rule book and process. And you may have to really attain to that kind of threshold level. So there is no choice for us in certain kind of sectors, accepting going by the particular standards which are being ruled in the market right now contemporarily. So that's where we have to catch up with the train. We have to catch up with that particular fastness of growing whatever it is happening. And that makes us feel, yes, I'm empowered because I'm doing the same thing. I am in the same business. I'm at the same level. I'm actually competing with my contemporary people. All my competitors are doing the same thing. Even my version is also the same version. Maybe some are 2-3 layers I'm behind, but I will catch up within 1 or 2 years. That's where your goals are set. That's where you are talking about, this is how I do. So empowering actions are something very critical, very, very critical. How do you reinforce your own employees by whatever is happening with the pure feedbacks of a technical as well as on the soft side also is matters a lot, because from there, your speed of action, the speed of things, the way people will start doing it much faster. When implementation has happened in the first year, speed may not be that faster. But once the validation happens, the next year onwards or the next 6 months onwards, you will see the growth suddenly jump because the reinforcement has happened. Because validation has happened from both quarters, that is from internal as well as external. And you started comparing your product, your service or your design with your competitors, and you said that kind of happy thing that yes, we are on the right track and we are actually beating the competitor, or at least if not beating, at least we're on the same level, same par of the competitor. And this is where you feel good, and this is where it has to go back to records officially saying that we're on the right track and empowering each other. And that is where cross-functional teams and trying to say the flags saying that yes, we're all. So this is also very interesting. And for everything, again, even over here, a lot of massive levels of exercises of interaction, discussion, brainstorm, workshops, activities, or even exchange of mails, or even appreciation. You create certain kind of slots where you appreciate people, where you call them and say that this is what it is, please do continue. A lot of effort has to go in, a lot of effort to talk about it, what is there, a lot of effort to really go in and how are we actually directing things and which direction we are. And we started 1 year back, a lot of them training programs went in, people have gone with half-hearted thing, but now today people are actually happy because they are becoming the first-hand certified professionals of certain kind of categories of software or a technology or whatever it is. So it's good for them, even if they jump out of the organization later on, but still they are the one who got equipped with this particular skills. So they're happy. So you take that kind of note and then talk to it. So everywhere, at every level, the hand holding, the talking, that kind of making, that kind of leading things is very important, crucial, and empowering happens. And then you will see suddenly triple or double kind of jump can happen, and people have seen that jump in their production, process, service, results, and all of it together as an entire system. The system will go through a massive change of a shift of a jump for the process of a higher growth, and that's what happens. And that is where they say that within 3 years we may not see that the jump, but definitely by 3rd year or 2nd of we will have that kind of jump, because by then people got acclimatized, right? That's what they say. Anyone who wants to share anything, I'm okay for this. Please do open. If you have come across, if you have seen it, or it was a bad, it was good, fantastic, whatever it is in your organization. In the middle of change or in the close of repetition of it. You can share anything, 1 or 2 anecdotes. Anyone? Yes? No? No anecdotes? Hello?
Madam, you can kindly go on.
Sorry. Yes? Two of them have talked. I didn't get anything of it. Please, can you repeat? Yes? Are we talking?
Ma'am, no anecdotes as of now from my side.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Great. Next is creating a quick wins. Like this is where you create certain kind of medals, the man of the month or man of the year or man of the quality improved person or man of the best batch or something, whatever it is, it suits your organization, creating the quick wins for the employees and making that kind of milestones. And if you've reached to this milestone, this is what you get. And then creating that kind of interface of discussion where you have done it, you have created, you have implemented, you got the results, and we appreciate. So we identify, we try to recognize, we reward. So the creating such quick wins of your new policy or a new rule, new process, new design, or a new measure, a new invention, or a new creativity of whatever you have done is something that will also go very well, very beautifully with the employees. And that is you who takes care of it, either HR or T&D or the people, those are immediate bosses or the top. We will have to take that kind of windows and try to create certain things where it will go back to people and say that, yes, you're being created certain kind of windows where people feel that each and everything that they've experimented, each and everything that they've implemented are being qualified and being certified, is being said yes. On top of it, you are being said that you are on the top of the game. You have learned fast. You have learned those techniques faster. You have implemented faster. You are actually doing it 100% right, and you are matching the standards the way that is supposed to. Finally, you have given them what you are supposed to give according to matching standards of the desired required quality or the desired required design. So that is where you stand first, or your department stands first. So creating those quick wins are very important. Okay. So what makes very important thing for a stakeholder is they feel that they're being addressed, they're being given that attention because they went through a lot of process for the past 2 years or 1 year, ever since you have created that change as a philosophy to change, right? Now, this is very important. Seventh one is build on the change. This is where replicating, this is where we move forward with whatever you have changed now. We are trying to continue with the change. So the build on the change is nothing but whatever comes now further, over and above new changes come, is on the basis of the change that we have already achieved. I repeat, whatever we're going to change further or whatever we're going to build upon can be some more further features. Like, when your interface WhatsApp have come, that they have come with minimum features, but later on, whatever is coming over and above. So once you have created that kind of new thing or the new phase, a new process, yes, that is being celebrated as a new thing and quick wins are made. And then you have created certain kind of slots of SOPs and so on. Now you build on that change, means you repeat, and maybe in the future, as you go further, within 3 months, there can be another bump of a new change, another new change, or another phase of a new intervention that you will bring. But whatever it is, over and above what you have already achieved. So you're building on that particular change that you have achieved. Based on the particular platform, you start going further and further, right? That's where building on change, because you have secured that particular entire position called, yes, I've achieved that particular change process. I built on it now. Now onwards, standing on what we have achieved, we will try to go further. We strengthen, we repeat, again, we may intervene with new interventions because the system is ready. I think we went with certain discussions in the beginning itself. If change has to happen, how much of the system readiness declares for any improvisation? Forget about change. Are you ready for an improvisation? So not every change is a change, but most of the change also will have a lot of improvisation, a small improvisation, a new intervention, a very single line intervention that you can go for. It also is a change, but that is not 100% change, but can be called as an improvisation. When a system is not ready for an improvisation, it is far away from the change process to take in place. That's what people say in the change management or the change gurus, all of them. So that's where you say that, yes, build on the change. Once we've achieved it, from basing on that particular platform, we will bring in more. Those more can happen more regularly. The frequency can be discussed, how much we want to change, but the standard is standard that we have actually declared about so far, and we made it that as a standard SOP of the new change philosophy. Basing on that, we will move further, replicating, right? That's one stage called 7th, or build on change. 8th one is make it stick. Yes, this is where, fine, this is what it is. So anytime you go to McDonald's, this is what the finger chips here has to happen. Your French fries are supposed to look like, because design, quality, flavor, look, All of them are supposed to be like that. So you're sticking to it. You're standardizing it. You're making sure that whatever comes out of your department, it has to happen this way. No deviations. If there is deviation and aberrations, you call it, it's not the way. So you have a quality system which is talking about first time right, zero defects, right? And stick to what you have already standardized, right? So your first time right is something which is much more for your quality as well as for your working capital, not to really burn much, because you're not wasting much. You're trying to, the process is first time right. Whatever you have done, it's a first time right. So most of the organizations say that if I stick to it, I will try to go for even more further improvisation, saying that first time right, or we will go for a zero defect. These are two costly implementations because it's not easy to go for a zero defect and it's not easy to go for a first time right. But if people have understood that standard procedures that we have achieved, maybe we can go ahead and then we will stick to it. So sticking to that particular process, what it has given you so far results, is a very good decision, because you would like to reap the benefits of the new change, and you would like to make sure that the more number of mass production happen, and the massive level of changes that has taken place has given you results, and you want to continue on the results as you have really built on the results. Okay. That's about John Picotter's 8 stages of the model. This is the most talked about change process or the change model. You have a complete book on John Picotter's 8 stages of the model. Any questions? We'll also try to talk about a bit of all of them, or again 8 of them in a very creating whatever we discussed, and it's a bit of a build a guiding coalition, strategic vision. All of them that we discussed in the previous slide is in a very different form of a slide. That's all, a bit of a narrative. Okay. So it talks about create sense of urgency, build guiding coalition, and then strategic vision and initiatives we talked about as we rewrite the vision and we write your mission and vision statements and redefine. Then enlist volunteer army, that means creating a change and coalition creation. That's what we talked about. 5, enable action by removing barriers, where you're trying to create your mission and vision statements are being cut down into pieces and say that this is what our action plan, if at all action plan has to happen, what are the barriers, what are the situations. If people are not ready, maybe you may have to remove them, or you may to reallocate, or a delegation of the work is a more important at this place. Then you're reassigning the job to people, and that's what happens. Okay. Next is generate a short-term wins, right? You're trying to create that. If you are doing it, maybe in 30 days, we're going to get the results, and this result will actually enable us to go further, and we're all waiting for them. So you will go for a implementation, the particular pilot zone or a process, then call for it as a victory, and you have certified your QCs and QAs have worked on it. You are being certified that we are on close to the job, and then you call it as a short-term win. Now you have sustained the acceleration. Now you'll say that we'll repeat. We'll try to accelerate. We'll build on that. So build on that particular change. We'll continue, we'll replicate, and we'll try to make sure that this will continue for the same thing, and we will try to standardize this SOP in such a way that the future operations will go like this. This is where acceleration of the process at 7 happens. 8, institute change. The whole institute is going through the same change, and whole institute is walking with the same change on its shoulder. And that is where your entire organization calls it. We're implementing this change. So all of you start saying that this is what our model is now. Now we are into this phase. Now we call ourselves, we're completely ready, and we have the prowess to call ourselves that we are into this particular change. And from now on, we have our color is this, our product is this, our service is this, our design is this, our version is this. So whatever it is, you're trying to declare it as a complete thing. In the entire thing, you are supposed to manage the whole system as a whole system. And you're trying to managing the entire system with all the stakeholders' importance being given. All the stakeholders, all of them, those are very important. Each and every person is being considered, discussed, taken into consideration, and being participative. They made being very participative. That is where your changes become more successful. Okay. Now we'll take a small break from before we go for a theory. I want you to open up your, let's talk over here. This one chat I just gave today. Please do open that. Yeah. We can go for the break rooms. Then we will try to discuss this one. Cafe Vagnano. Pragna can create the break rooms or please do give a read to it. 5 minutes. We'll try to discuss about this Cafe Vagnano and we'll try to see why Cafe Vagnano is not considered as a Starbucks successful thing. But you think that a company which is there from 1882 in the world is not come to India. You call it, its philosophy of doing business is good or bad. Let's say from Indian point of view, let's say that if you don't know, how many of you know Cafe Vagnano first of all? I'm trying to go for a small discussion about this, that we'll go back to the theory. How many of you know Cafe Vagnano? Can you raise your hand?
No idea, ma'am.
No idea.
Not
How
heard,
many?
ma'am.
Huh?
Not heard. Never
No clue, ma'am. No clue.
No clue. Right.
heard of that.
Sorry?
First time listen the name.
First time. But it's an Italian successful brand. It is there in the world. All over the world, people, those who know, they're very, very ardent fans of Cafe Vagnano. They don't talk about Starbucks. They will only search for a Cafe Vagnano as a bar and then go for that particular coffee shop only. But that's how we don't know. We're in this part of the world or most of the part of the other worlds, in the countries wherever Cafe Vagnano is not there, they don't know at all. But most of them, even in a small city like Lucknow, you will know the Cafe Vagnano, Starbucks as a thing. Why? And what is it? What is this particular model of a doing business? Is it not changing? Is it not trying to look at not to change? Or is it the way that they're comfortable doing business wherever they are, right? Can I give you this? And I would like to create break rooms and then we will try to go ahead with a small discussion on, are we all, I'm trying to peg this one in comparison to Starbucks, right? And we all know what Starbucks is all about, right? Because we have seen, we must have enjoyed the coffee there, but we don't know this brand at all, but it is. So being there in the business more than so many years, is longevity alone success or is reaching out to countries itself is success? If somebody says that Starbucks, it's good, it's there everywhere, but it's not compared to Cafe Vagnano. If you talk to somebody, those are ardent fan of a Cafe Vagnano, they may not like Starbucks as a coffee. So it's a very different story altogether. But the point is, in a subcontinent of India, we don't know the brand means, that means we don't know. That means it has not done that kind of effort to come to India or even to make sure that others should know about your brand. So what do you call this? What do you call this business model? What do you call this particular change process? This particular thing, they're not customizing. They're not customizing to the standards, the way it is changing. If you say that you are being established from 1882, it's a big thing to know. It's a big thing to know, right? DuPont, your Western Union, all of them are very, very old companies. And they did go for a lot of customization, including Coca-Cola, a lot of customization. It has established long back, but it has really gone through a lot of change. And that's where the more you are talking about your longevity in the business, the more you must have reached number of countries. If it is not happening, what is your business model? And how do you call yourself more successful compared to Starbucks? Or how do you say that you are very selective in some countries and you're happy with it? Is there a danger for Cafe Vagnano to die completely, even though where there is successful in countries, but still after some point it may still die because it cannot compete? Or the way it is happening, people are still there, those who are actually appreciating Cafe Vagnano the way it's doing the business. These are some questions. I can create break rooms or we can discuss right away. Whatever you people say yes to it. Yes?
Break rooms would be good, ma'am.
Better to discuss right away instead
Discuss
of break
right away?
rooms.
Ma'am, yeah, this is
That's
good
better.
to discuss it right away because most of the majority of the people have no idea regarding this coffee Vagnano. We do not have the history as well.
Yes.
I don't have the history as well. I do not know about others.
Yeah.
And
I created this because I myself didn't know that. Only I have traveled across the world, other countries, and I saw that. I felt like, oh, it says it 1882 established, and we don't know. And it's a very one of the favorite brand of the Italians, which is there across the world, and most of the Europe wants to have it, and but we don't know. We don't know, and they're not even trying to come to India. The worst part is, I like it the way discussion, because they're not even putting their efforts to come to India, and India is a coffee loving country. You know, what is the model of the business? India is a coffee loving country, equally a chai loving country, right? You take tea as well as coffee almost equally, right? That South India is a coffee lover. Of course, in the coffee is now on the upsurge of where it's a fashion for people to hang out, and then you're not even putting effort to talk about India as a market. I feel it's even more important. The minute I come back, and I'll try to make sure that I'm talking about that case study. And I did work with some of the people those are designing certain kind of plans to enter into other countries as a global business plan. We actually talked about it. So I was working with them for a certain kind of business plan to enter into certain points of Europe. And that's where I completely paid my attention to Cafe Wagner. If you want to have 5 minutes to Google and then come back, and I'm okay with it. But as it is, let us make it a discussion. First of all, you're all happy that it's a new case which is not heard of. It's good, and we are a coffee country. We have got coffee, and we export coffee. We consume coffee, and you cannot ignore us. And why is that this is not doing business in India, and not even thinking of doing business with India? These are two important questions, and you are a very apt student right now, apt participant right now to talk about it, because you're talking about change, you're talking about innovation, you're talking about diversifying the business the way that you want to reach out to the customers all over the world. And this cannot be anything else that you will miss out on a discussion, right? I'll stop from my side. I want to hear from more, please, to come up with your discussion. If you want 5 minutes, I can be silent. Please do Google quickly and then have more massive information discussion, then come back.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So I can probably trigger some thoughts, ma'am.
Sure, please.
See, one is when a global brand is trying to enter any particular geography, it cannot be directly accepted because there is always a geographic flavor that brand has to bring in.
Yes.
Okay. So if a brand is very specific that, okay, a McD, for example, if they make a Mac veg burger in California and in Mumbai, it's exactly the same. But somewhere it is accepted. Whereas in some cases, it may not be accepted. So they have to go for some regional flavors. And if the company is very specific that they don't want to dilute their brand, they want to remain standard across, they would probably not enter into the region, or if they enter into the region, they become a failure. Like there are many such brands, like Canada Dry was a drink, which never wanted to become an Indian flavor. But it died a very natural death in, say, 3-4 years, not maybe less than that. So likewise, it should be an adaptability to get a regional or a geographic flavor, which will make a global brand successful in a particular country. So this could be one trigger of thought.
Yeah. And you must have heard one curd called Epigami or something. Some curd has come.
Oh, yes, that probiotic.
Yeah. Actually, the way they're actually advertising it, it can be good for you before your gym and so on. Even though you talk about a lot of nutrition value and all, accepting mishti dahi or a sweet curd, India is not eating curd directly or separately as a snack. Right. So it's a cultural
Yes,
component that you have to
absolutely.
consider, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I'm opening because these are all business situations. All of them needs a lot of change as an innovation process, and then that's a discussion that we want to. I would really be very happy if we really strike a great discussion part of this things.
We have many such examples. You take automobile.
Yeah.
Toyota, the global automobile leaders, could never be successful in India for decades together until very recently. Innova is very recently becoming a personalized car. Otherwise, it was always a tours and travels car.
Yeah.
Okay, so because they never changed to the Indian requirements or Indian palate or Indian taste, whatever we call it, it's a cultural fitment is what we should look at.
And then see, wherever they go, they're very happy. They're very happy because that's what we have achieved.
Yeah.
I think one more example I've given you guys, I think Dasani, the water, Coca-Cola's water, which is equivalent to your Kinley, which is called Dasani as a point. Dasani is a failure, massive failure in Europe. It's an American brand of a Coca-Cola's water bottle, mineral water bottle. How many of you are aware of it? We can discuss that further also, right? Because the Dasani being Coke as being American brand, it talks about reverse osmosis as a technique of purifying the water. And then we come to Europe, and then Europe has completely said no to reverse osmosis technique as a pure water. The use of a word called pure is very important for Europe as well as India, because your Himalayan waters or the pure river water, a pure well water is a pure, but not a tap water is a pure water. Even in India, a pure goes in a very different way. So when American company Coca-Cola has used a pure water for a Dasani, which is a processed or a refined filtered water through a tap water. It's a tap water which is filtered and being through a technique called reverse osmosis. Of course, it's a technical technology is good. That technology is good, but Europe is always very, very fussy and very jittery about their natural water. Glaciers, you give me a glacier water, I'll call it pure water, right? Evian bottled water is less than 75 euros. Okay, I mean less than €1. And then they said that why I should pay €1 for this particular thing, which is a reverse osmosis technical. It's a tap water being called as a pure. The headlines hit and then entire batch of the waters. So they had to struggle. It's a massive breakdown of the discussions, saying that you are not showing that cultural competency to talk in terms of water. You think water is a very silly business? No, water is a big business. Water is a very big business, because people are very, very critically, assessing why I should buy your water. So glaciers, natural highland waters are the pure waters, not the tap water, which is captured and being processed is called a pure water. So drop the pure from yours because it's a tap water. Headlines like that is a massive blow back to a big giant called Coca-Cola. You may be successful in America, but you cannot be successful there in Europe. How do you like it? It's a massive thing, right? So there's so many things which they had to go for a customization of the locals. And however you're good, maybe the American brand of the American way of doing it may not be completely taken that way in that particular fashion.
Forget global brands, ma'am. Even within India, a brand which is so popular in South can never compete in, say, Mumbai. For example, there is this brand called Hatti Coffee in Bangalore. It's very, very popular in Bangalore. For a true coffee lover, that's a divine coffee. But they venture into Mumbai airports. It never could be successful even today.
Because that kadwa, that
Yes.
bitterness is not part
Even,
of the palate for the North Indians.
Yes.
If you bring something adrak chai or adrak and ilachi or a dalchin kind of thing,
Absolutely.
that's thing. Because the way that function, that's what it is. So the bitter taste of the coffee is always there in the southern part of India.
Yes.
So kapikati may not really go well in the airports unless again a South Indian will reach out to and then buy it. That's what it is.
I think that is one of the reasons when it comes to the case study for today, Cafe Vagnano and Starbucks. Starbucks has
Exactly.
become more localized. They have sweetened the coffee a lot. Cafe Vagnano, on the other hand, is a more family-owned business. It's a traditional Italian brand. They want to preserve the kind of coffees that they're making, and they want to take that coffee globally.
Yeah, with the same thing.
Yeah.
Nowhere customizing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
whereas Starbucks is like they're adapting, but the way McDonald's progress, they are adapting to the local customers, their local markets, and they're branding accordingly. Whereas now I've just read that Cafe Vagnano has entered into a strategic partnership with Coca-Cola to take their brand globally. But then if they don't adapt to the local markets, probably it's not going to work out the way it should.
Yeah. Because for so long, after their existence in the entire thing,
even for
they
the
haven't
failure.
experimented. Huh? They haven't experimented into anything. Yeah, please. Please go ahead. Mayuri raised hand. Somebody is talking. Please do go ahead. I'm all yours with.
Yeah, so ma'am, just as Sasmit was saying, they have not really ventured because they want to preserve their taste. I think one of the taglines of Cafe Vagnano also is that coffee is women. And what they say is that 25% of the coffee planters are women, and 75% of the plantation workers also women. Now, in India, if you look at it, especially if you're trying to see why they've not come to India, how many coffee plantations are owned by women? That is one. Yes, there might be plantation workers, but I think probably doesn't work with their sustainability model or the way they're trying to pick up projects across countries where I guess they need to support women and women empowerment. So I think that could be one of the reasons why they don't want to venture into countries where women are not in those positions to get into such kind of endeavors.
True.
Is something that I kind of just read, and that also resonates with why probably if you look at the website, their website clearly gives the zones and the footprints that they have got across the globe.
Yeah.
And while they are in Iran and Iraq, to be very honest, I was surprised to see that. But otherwise, they are all in the countries where it's huge coffee, flavored coffee, which rather maintaining the flavor that they want to kind of sustain throughout their chains.
Yeah. So there are two varieties like Arabica and Robusta. So if it is Arabica, like Indian, very strong aroma plus the strong pungent thing of coffee. So it's like a bitterness. So
Yeah.
most of them they're like lighter versions. So
We prefer more chicory compared to coffee.
yes. So there's a thing. So it's a lighter version. So espresso is a different game altogether, and that's where you will get to see how difficult for them, because they have not done their seeds are very good. The coffee seeds are very good, but the point is the process and the way that they stick to that particular process. Coffee itself is a different. It's a, you can say every country is into different coffee cult. There's a coffee culture altogether very different. If you want to be there in the business, the way if you want to be there in the water business. So everything is its own, it's a massive level of understanding, if I can, culture, availability, resources, and the way that they went through the entire process of consuming certain things, the coffee. So I think what it is doing so far is basing on people, those are espresso lovers and the cafe vernano lovers, but I think it's doing well. But you think it can sustain that way, the way it is doing, is a question. Because at the end of the day, it's all volumes. At the end of the day, it's all numbers. To what extent that you can sustain the process and in the business, what else you want, and why are you not inventing, why are you not changing? Because you are in the part of change. All of you, do you think that it can sustain without change? Any change, process change, product change, or if components, flavor change, or anything? Yeah, Rasya ji, boliye.
Ma'am, one is for sure if there is a vision of becoming a market leader in that particular line of product, there is definitely a need for customization. Having said that, in a market like India, if a Cafe Vagnano comes in, they would fit into a very niche market where the client would spend money going to a Cafe Vagnano or investing money in buying that coffee because they want it, not because they need it. So it's more of the 20% of the consumer's wallet, which is non-discretionary spends. I want it, so I buy it. I don't need it. I could go and just pick up the local coffee from my grocery store. But no, I want something which has that little depth, that little undertone, and it says something Italian, and then it becomes a fad. So it depends on really how this brand positions themselves in the Indian market.
Yeah.
And if they choose to be okay with being in a niche frame, then they can sustain, and then they'll have to play the long game of patience, saying open fewer stores, target cities, and really go to the places where they know there is a cosmopolitan client who is well traveled and who would know, or would be open to receiving a new brand. Because now you see Starbucks is, of course, everywhere. Tim Hortons has come in very strongly in India. Pret a Manger has come in very strongly in India, and Pret, in fact, is doing a very city-targeted strategy. There is no Pret in Pune, where I live, for example, but it's there definitely in Delhi, Bombay. They're targeting Bangalore. So it's very specific like that, and they are trying to crunch where they know that there is a client.
Yeah. So you call it now Cafe Vagnano a successful thing, or you think it needed a change? It needs a change, or how many of you give the verdict like that? Whatever discussion.
I just feel that it depends on what they want, because I see from what I read in the article, I see that they, and I agree with the others who say they want to maintain the origin of the
Yeah.
taste of the Italian coffee, and they're not okay to compromise on that. If that is the choice, then when they move into a market with in a different subcontinent where there's a different culture, they can only be placed in the non-discretionary spend of the consumer's wallet. So they'll never become a household name. They'll only become a luxury name or a
Okay.
status symbol.
Great. Then my question is, yeah, Ganesh, 1 minute. I'll give you. Then my question is, when you are actually happy to eat an Italian pasta, the way Italian, very Italian way to be prepared, like your white sauce and other sauces, and exactly people prepare, the youngsters, and they learn it and the way prepare and eat it. Why not you have your Italian coffee as it is supposed to be? Why there should be a change or a customization, if at all it wants to? Because pasta, you're not able to customize it. You're doing exactly the way pasta has to be done.
Ma'am, it's actually a choice. It's a choice.
Agree or not? My
There are
question is
people
right
who
or not?
choose the point is very valid, but it's an individual choice.
Of course.
We still have Indian Chinese in India, right?
I
The
know,
Chinese
I know,
in
I know.
India is not really China Chinese. It's very Indian Chinese. And you
Yes.
find very few places where you get the authentic taste, which is bland and which is in a certain way, etc.
Exactly.
Everywhere else, your roadside Chinese will never be the same thing as a mainland China or whatever it is.
Yes.
So it's a choice. I still feel it's a choice.
Yes. Yeah, Ganesh Ramji, boliye, please, please.
Yeah, so it's see, it is a strategic call the company normally takes. Okay, if they have to show that they're a global player present in multiple countries, or they are restricted to a region like Europe, EMEA, North America, LATAM. So it's a choice that the organization takes whether to expand their footprint, irrespective of how successful they are in the particular region. So that's one aspect of thinking. And second aspect is once they enter a market, say for example India, it again is purely driven by the target audience. Okay, so which group you are targeting? So are you looking at the Zen Alpha or the millennials? So millennials may not prefer this Cafe Vergnano because of the palate mismatch. Okay, I would probably prefer a Arabica or Robusta versus a Vergnano. Whereas my daughter might like a Vergnano. So because she's a Gen Alpha, for example. So this is how they strategically position, and the outlets may be very limited, but they can boast in the website that they are a globally present company, which is present across 56 countries. Okay, in the 56th country, which is India, it could be only 2 outlets, irrespective of that. So these are the other aspects when an organization looks how to expand their brand image.
Yeah, great. So I think the younger generation may like it if it comes with whatever they want along with other periphery into that Cafe Vignano as
Yes.
an ambience, any other incentives or the cash vouchers or any other special treatments or the kind of people that are offering everything that they're offering as an extra. Maybe they'll all go for if it is a very best place for them to hang out, there's nothing like. So more than the coffee, they would like to like also the place or the ambience or the
Absolutely.
created.
That's
So
what
because
Coffee
they
Day
want-
did it. When they Coffee Day
Exactly.
started, that's exactly what they did.
Exactly. So if that is giving them as an experience they want, maybe they won't mind to buy a coffee. And they may switch from a very loyal Starbucks or the Coffee Cafe Day guys to Cafe Vignano. And that's the segment that we're talking about, the younger generation. That's all. Right? Not the people, those are very serious people, because they say that I will have my filter coffee at home, which is equivalently strong, and I cannot compromise on my filter coffee taste compared to whatever Italian it is. There are
Better than
people who
Italian.
would say, agree, right or not?
Absolutely.
Yes. Someone else also. Sashmi ji, please boliye.
I think, ma'am, recently India has been very adaptive because of the rise in the disposable income. India has been very adaptive to the authenticity of other countries. It
Yes.
may be, we have seen a lot of joints. Previously, it was only Chinese. Now you have specific Asian food restaurants where
Yeah,
you have
Korean, all
Burmese
of
and
them, yeah.
Taiwanese and all the other sorts of coming in. Same goes with coffee. Like we already have a Starbucks, but Tim Horton is coming out strong. Okay, so I take some inputs from what Rasya ji was saying. I think if they are targeting as a luxury brand, so it can definitely, they can launch it in India as a luxury brand, because now Starbucks has become a household name. So there's no novelty to it.
Yeah.
So if somebody who's actually looking for something, trying something different, trying more luxurious, then Cafe Vagnano would definitely be there. And again, if they want to maintain their authenticity, if they want to maintain the kind of beans that they're getting, they want to maintain their Italian heritage, then it would be better for them to market the luxurious segment. Or if they enter in India and they try to procure locally, like the way McDonald's does or some other food chains do, they try to procure it locally, then there would be an impact on quality, and probably it may just turn out to be another coffee brand, and which may not be able to make it market niche.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Authenticity matters. If you think that they're driving people, or the entire driving force is for the authenticity and that particular quality standard of the Italian as an Italian, like your Italian pasta, they're not compromising wherever they say that Italian pasta to be pasta. Yes, I think that can be. As you said, disposable income has increased. People would like to experiment more. They would like to taste more new cuisines, or the international cuisines and the international authentic things. Maybe that's reason India will have more of this kind. But still, there is a choice of a Cafe Vagnano itself as a company that they would like to come or not. Because they're worried about the numbers, they may not get the more, right? Like Swarovski cannot be there everywhere as a diamond. It can be there in Hyderabad only in the airport, but it may not be there everywhere unless you're Bombay or Delhi. So that's a choice of a company. That's where the assessment went into. They said that we cannot be there everywhere because that's not. But Starbucks is trying to be there everywhere. That is the where model of the change and the process, right? Because it is changing. It's wanting to give for the local. It is saying authentic as an American, but at the same time, I would like to give what you want. Like McDonald's have done. Your biryani is and other things, tikkas are also being part of their menu because I cannot have anything else. This is the only way that I can sustain the business because I have to customize. Because you are the one, you are the boss in the local. I have to give you what you want. Maybe I'm from America, I'm from Spain, but the point is, since I came to you, I want you to buy my thing, I better listen to what you want. This is the only way it functions. If that's what they do, maybe they are successful. That's the reason they all have become household names, right? But it's not looking at it. It doesn't want to. So what do you mean by compromising? What do you mean by customizing is a very thin line to understand. Agree or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody has written over here, Sasmiji, then they can expand as per local market. Yes, yes. Anyone else who wants to say anything on the thing? Next thing, I'll try to put it on your Dreamliners thing. Is all opinions about Cafe Vagnano is discussed? You like the case? It's a good thing. Then maybe you can also put on certain kind of other discussions in your own personal groups and so on. Right. I'll move on to the next one. Okay. Yeah. Anyone wants to say anything about Cafe Vagnano? No? Wait, then we'll go for this one. Fine, let's technically speaking. You wait. Sorry, I'll give you one thing. 1 minute, hold on. Can you just, I'll give you 5 more minutes. This is another classic case of a discussion. Boeing 787 case analysis of Dreamliner, which went into a discussion. A lot of other, I'll try to put something else. Please, sorry. Okay. There are issues with the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. Supply chain risk and Boeing, it's a case being discussed and it's become a bigger discussion. It's got supply chain, it's got parts and procurement issues and okay. There's a comparison when 787 Dreamliner has failed or has gone into this crisis. A lot of A380, that is Airbus sales has increased because that's a gap that they lost the game. And that is where a lot of case studies and a lot of business discussions went into, and then we still quote it or we discuss from various point of angles. Okay. Now, I'll see over here. I'll just give you 5 minutes of whatever you can get through. Please do Google through and then come back. And this is also one, it has got change, it has got innovation, it's got customer care, it has got ethical code of conduct. It has also got your R&D managing, and it also has got your financial disposition, the way that you allocate the funds to a certain kind of R&D, and then you put yourself into how critical the business is when you go for innovation. And that too, aviation sector is a very expensive sector, which is not easy to experiment. Even R&D is talking about trillion dollars. So it's not easy. So it's a very different case. We use it for 6 to 7 layers of a business parameters. I give you that now for 5 minutes. I'll try to be silent. Then you go ahead with what is the 787 Dreamliner's case study all about, and please do come back, and whichever falls into line of a discussion, which is easy, and that will be a very rich discussion for us. Is it okay? Yeah. Let's do it the same way. Is it okay? All of you say yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Please go ahead with what you can find and Google, and then come back with your points and the struggles or the problems or the discussions and the highlights and the pointers that the case of 787 is a discussion for today or for every business situation or a class. We'll talk about all of them. Yes. Quickly, can we have a discussion? Yeah. Potential risk caused by the 787 supply chain. Infeasibility of material in flight tests, which is untested on this scale. That's a first basic risk. Risk consequence, what happened at Boeing? Invisibility of development issues with the tier 1 suppliers, partners, resulting in major delays. That is actually blown out of proportion. Next, supplies. Tier 1 suppliers outsource development tasks to tier 2 partners, which may not have technical know-how. That's a internal issues of a functional thing. Lack of knowledge about supplier selection by tier 1 partner, delay in development and manufacturing work. There are so many multiple layers of a problems that is being identified, but massively it has failed in certain areas. Reason, new, one is a design, one is a material that is experimented with a new material. Altogether, it didn't go well, and that particular failure has made Airbus to really pick up the sales. That's a huge loss. One is you have failed. Another one is your competitor has actually filled that particular vacuum that is created by you. They have taken over your orders, and most of the orders of the Boeing has gone to Airbus. That particular phase of thing, and it's a very, what do you call? It's a very unexpected. I don't think that it can be said as an unexpected, but it's very unprepared move. And for a company like Boeing, the world or the customers have said that however big you are, if you are not falling into those lines and expectations, maybe we have waited for years, more than 4 years, and it's not easy for us to take anymore. So that's a verdict from the customers of the aviation sector all over the world. And it had to give money back to some companies. And interestingly, however big you are, you have to get the setbacks the way that you are supposed to. And you are answerable, and you're accountable, and then you are not to be considered that you're irreplaceable. No, there is no one that can be called as I am irreplaceable. No, it can be replaced. And that is where Airbus has got the orders, right? That is where the second fill-in went in. And that's where the big lessons have learned. And that is where even today in supply chain, in ethics, in R&D functions, and then your supply chain designs and the coordination between the vendors and the suppliers and your internal people, all of them as part of our discussions, it still stands as one of the high priority based case study discussion. It may be taken at least 2 hours or 3 hours, but I really wanted to make sure that we at least bring this particular point as a topic of a discussion over here. I may not be spending that much of time the way that I spend with other workshops or an activity in my MBAs or other kind of senior leadership process, but I don't want to miss this opportunity to discuss about it, because we are acutely discussing about the problems of the change in the way that innovation has to take place or the handholding has to happen. So that's my idea. Please do make sure that we are also participating. If you want to say, please do share. Let's have a discussion. I've shared this one in the chat. You can have it. It's taking time, or you want to? Anyone wants to discuss, please? What do you know about, or what you would gather about 787's? Hello? Excuse me?
Ma'am, we are there. I think we're just trying to read that video.
Yeah,
Give us
sure.
a minute.
Okay, you want me to go through, you want me to put
No,
like
we've got
this?
the PDF, ma'am. We've downloaded that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It has unconventional supply chain. It has technical issues with its particles. It has issues with its quality of components, right? Um, it has got received orders from more than 50 airlines for a total of 895 Dreamliners. The overwhelming response from the airline industry about Boeing 787 has forced Airbus to quickly redesign its competitive wide-bodied jet, the A350. Till then, it was not. So it's like in a very interestingly, while we are talking about 787 Dreamliner, we also will be coming across how Airbus has actually swiftly managed its change process. It had to really come back on its feet and then come out with a new model, and then it's also costly. It's also very expensive. It's also very, very time-bounded results to happen. And equally, we may have to talk about Airbus also. The way it handled its crisis of losing the business, crisis of not being contemporary when compared to Boeing, what it has done with its experiment. And it was also very quick because it is reaction-based kind of innovation. It is not the way that you're organically you are designing something in your own organization and doing, but it wanted to compete with the Boeing and it came out with. That is also very interesting aspect of this discussion that I wanted to. At the end of the day, when things have failed and fallout has happened, and orders had to move from this to 50 airlines have given orders, and some of them, or many of them, are also paying advance. Is not a joke, and it's not a simple feat altogether. It's a very interesting case in many ways, as I said. Okay. Now, Boeing is currently, the second largest global aircraft manufacturer behind Airbus in terms of revenue and deliveries, though having received more orders in Airbus. The second largest aerospace and defense contractor in the world is, behind Lockheed and Martin. This is where we call Boeing as the champion in this, right? And the single largest exporter in the United States, of course. And the sales in 2000 amounted to $66 billion, right? Now, besides the sales, the stock market responded favorably when being launched in game-changing 787 Dreamliner program in 2003. As shown in figure 2, between 2003 and 2007, Boeing's stock price increased from around $30 to a share slightly over 100 as a share, which is a huge jump because of your new innovation and the new interventions that you brought in your entire craft, and the orders has increased. So the brand image, share price, stakeholders' commitment to you, and the way people perceive your company all put together have changed from between 2003 to 7 in 4 years. And sustaining that particular momentum is also very critical. And that is where huge innovation, huge changes that you bring is not easy. It's bringing that itself is a feat. Sustaining itself is even another more feat. And that's what happens. And then what you have committed, what you have actually said yes to it, and how do you want to result it, and how do you want to bring it to a conclusion and deliver it is altogether a different game altogether. And that's where some companies will fail at the fag end because the results are not matching with what your promises have done. And in meanwhile, if it is an aviation sector like this, people have waited for more than 7 years or 6 years after giving $1 million of money. The end will be even more fatal. I mean, it will be very, very big fiasco for you as a company, which will be difficult for you to roll over any more further programs or any more further activities, because it's unheard of that kind of losses or unheard of that kind of brand image going down. And a series of incidents can actually help us to understand more, right? The negative market response is somewhat expected as publicity of Boeing's supply chain problems have become increasingly evident. This is where it has started as a problems, right? As shown in figure 2, Airbus shared a similar fate after announcing a series of delays for the delivery of its A380 in early 2006, right? Despite significant capital investment and management effort, Boeing is currently facing continual delays. And that is where the more delays has happened. It was asked to pay the money back. And this is the worst scenario where people will have given you money in advance when your R&D is in the 4th stage or 5th stage of your Boeing 787. And they waited for your R&D to complete, and you have promised to deliver something within 5 years of your R&D complete, and 787 Dreamliner supposed to be delivered, and you couldn't deliver. Then comes that where people might have asked you to pay the money back. Some people must have given you show cause notice or even legal thing, and some people must have even asked you to pay the interest and with interest, sood ke samet, right? And that is where the critical issue comes. And innovation taking into it, it's a kind of debacle of innovation we're talking about, and that too, it's a very expensive sector called aviation, right? I keep quiet now. I would like to invite anyone who wants to, with whatever you could whip through and skim through discussion, please to come back, say something. It will be great to hear from you. So they have come with the composite material. This is the very interesting material they've discussed, and that is what the R&D or the process is. So faster cruising speed, because they said that which is lighter, and then it'll actually increase their speed, which enables city pair non-stop flights. And they said that fuel efficiency, lighter material lowers the operating cost. But the fag end of it, they had a problem of that material also given the fire accident. That's a different story altogether. That's where they had to really come up with the remedies for it. Corrosion resistance, of course, and that's where the composite material was considered as one of the best material compared to the earlier materials, right? Modular design that allows for 2 types. These are all very design innovation which talked about, and component innovation they talked about, and then very experiments with the new things that they want. And structural innovation and the structural change that they made is your suppliers and the supply chain. The whole supply chain process is the structural change. Altogether, many things happening at one single go is a complete fiasco. You would have gone for stages. Maybe you would have tried that kind of suppliers for a different kind of material or a different kind of flight or a different kind of components. Or you would have gone for a design once. Then you would have gone for, component ones. The design, component, suppliers, all put together, many things happening in one single go. That is Dreamline's 787. I think there is a benefit over here because a company of that size can think of it because they've got the brand value. They've got the bandwidth also that they can actually pull off certain kind of feat. But at the same time, the verdict and the kind of scenario and the case has gone through in a way that no one is exceptional. No one can be called as irreplaceable, and no one can say that everybody is permanent loyal to you. No, it's not, because however big you are, the time limit or the kind of respect, the kind of waiting period people have given you, and then they waited with respect, is also consumed. And that's where the results is not matching with expectations. Then they had to come with a different kind of verdict. And that goes very well, whichever sector you are and however big, gigantic you are. And maybe you're larger than life, but still the company has to face what it is supposed to face. These are very interesting stories of innovation and the process. I think you people have it. And then I'll call for one more. Anyone who is interested, anyone who would like to talk about it, even if it is not fully, it's okay. Don't, whatever you could get grasp of it for the sake of a discussion. If you think that you can share your opinions with or any other ideas or a thought process related to 787 Dreamliner, please do come back. Otherwise, also we can have more discussion, much more thoroughly for the next session that we will go through. But today, since I talked about two things I wanted to talk about, because one is I'm trying to introduce all those theoretical backgrounds of the change and innovation has to happen, and change philosophy, implementing and introducing into the organization. Then I thought that let's also couple with the discussions of a Cafe Vergnano. One is doing business with your authenticity, cultural component, and then not willing to go out of proportion and not willing to go for a customization and compromise with any, in the name of customization, you don't want to bring with new flavors. If Cafe Vegnano wants to bring in a new thing or a new variations, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. You maintain your authenticity, you maintain your vertical of only Italian, but you also bring in something else, which is also new. Wherever, whichever continent you go, whichever country you go, try to bring in something also for the locals. You offering the local thing along with your authentic is no harm at all. Why are you not thinking that hybrid mode? Cafe Vegnano can think of that hybrid mode. Nobody is asking to completely erase your original authentic model or original authentic coffee. Keep it that as your standalone thing. Yes, that is a stand thing. That is your flagship thing, right? That is your core thing. Fine, keep it. You also can bring in something which is necessary for the locals. Who's stopping you? There's no harm in. So diversifying is nothing but you have to kill your identity. Nobody's asking to kill your identity as an Italian coffee maker. Keep your identity, bring the authentic. People love the authenticity. Bring in, along with that authenticity, how much you think that you can also experiment with the new things on your menu for the locals adjustment. That is where you would love, you would get more love from people. But otherwise, I'm an Italian, wherever I go, I'm an Italian, fine, you're Italian. That's the reason we call you Italian. But the point is, you may want to do business because in the longer run, volume matters. Something else will come. Something else will come as a choice of the youngsters. Maybe your thing will become more of a passe, more of a different thing for the younger generation. So you cannot be so permanently feeling good about that happy space that you are in. That is where most of the businesses we have seen, they've gone down. We have seen Nokia's, we have seen Kodak's, we have seen so many. If you're not intervening with certain kind of improvisations with where you are making a great business now, when you are onto the top of the game itself, you do the business in a very proper way, in a better way, in a very inventive way, come with a creative way. Then you are trying to create more of a cross-selling. In your thing, you're actually cross-selling for the different cohorts. And that's what the business is all about. That's what invention, that's what changing is all about. But if you send a very strong message that I don't want to change, that's good. But nobody is asking in the name of customization, compromise with your quality or compromise your authenticity. What people are asking in the name of customization, in the name of locals that they are demanding to be given by localists, yes, I will come to you as long as I'm also being related to yours, because I want to relate to what you're offering. I can relate to what you're offering as long as something else is also available there. Unless I am actually, I'm trying to acclimatize your Italian to myself, so I will walk in. But how many number of times I'll be talking only in terms of Italian coffee? I will want something else on a daily basis. My Indian thing is necessary. So this is where we'll go into a boardroom discussion. That is what the change, that is what your innovation will drive the discussion. Why do you want to innovate? Why do you want to do things in a very innovative way? Why do you want to create certain kind of improvisation to your existing product line? Is all a different discussion. It is not a boardroom discussion. It is a very feedback of the market. It is the way that you want to do business. It is the way that you want to enter into other markets. Do you want to penetrate markets or not? You're happy with what you are. That how many of the companies, those who said that I'm happy the way I am, after some point, they're no longer available on the map. They're not there in the map. That's all. Because they're gone. They're gone completely. They're vanished because that's what his numbers is all about. That's what his volumes are all about. That's what the way that you have actually created yourself as a business, right? Similarly, 797 Boeing also I wanted to discuss. I know that there's absolute silence because it needs more time. I would have given, but they would have passed it on to you. But I felt like 10 to 5 minutes is enough for you guys because you're all learned and senior people. Nevertheless, people have got that particular, what do you call, PDF the discussion. You think that you can note down some kind of points and come back? Will that be a good deal for us? It's a good deal for us. We can have a very proper discussion next time in the next session about 787 because I have my passion towards that particular discussion. I really like that 787 Dreamliners discussion. How many of you can come back with your preparation of the points for the next Sunday? How many of you can raise your hand so that we'll be part of that? 10 minutes we will try to discuss for it. Yes, number one. Who's this? Anil ji. Who else?
Ma'am, I think we can all take the time to read it for next Sunday and then we
Yeah.
can
That'll
come
be
back
great.
later.
That'll be great. Yeah. Sorry. Wait a minute. So many of them said yes. Yes. So please do download it and come back with your points, and that will be a good discussion. As it is, it's a very good discussion. As it is, as I said, innovation, supply chain issues, and then design. Component change, innovation in the design, and structural shift or managing the supply chain on the components change or the way that you're procuring, the procuring style strategy also, strategy shift, component shift, and then design shift. All put together is a very good case for the change happening at multiple levels. Can it be done? Or even if it is done at a massive level, what happens? So that's about the Boeing thing. But still, let me see what I can. So we're done with this now. John Picotta's stages of, 7, 8 stages of thing. Now we'll talk about it. In the modern business, what are the changes, the types of changes that we can talk about, right? Happened change or reactive change or anticipatory change, right? Whatever changes happened. All you have to do is just stick to that, right? So this type of change is unpredicted and happens due to impact of external factors, okay? So what has happened to Nokia is a happened change. It has no clue. Android has come, Android has swept the market, Nokia is not ready. You have to live with it. Either you get onto the bus of a new change, either you learn the tricks of it, or you equip yourself, or you are out of the market. So that's a happened change. It's a very external force. COVID is a very happened change for all of us. It made us to learn. We have no say in it. We have to live with it. We have to equip ourselves to live with it. Many things that we have to learn, cope up with the things because, right? That's how it is. So that's a happened change. It's a sweeping change what happens. Very external force, very external thing. People have somebody somewhere, something as innovation has happened, right? The way that people used to operate has changed because the new laser technique has come. New intervention has come, new innovation has come, that is started being experimented, that is being now standardized. Now the standardized operation of an scar, there is no scar on your skin today because earlier it was there. Now today it's a different treatment altogether. That has become a happen change. You may have to live with it and you may have to understand how it is and accepting. You learn the technique and you learn that particular streak of it and then do it. There is no other way of doing business. Okay. The next one is reactive change. This type of change takes place in response to chain of events in organization, right? Something went well, something did not go well. In whichever way, the chain of actions are actually driving you towards the wall or driving you towards certain kind of point where you may have to take a decision, right? Okay. So, the failure of Anil Ambani's or the failures of that some banks, the failure of Lehman Brothers. There are a series of incidents that actually giving you signals that, the crash of the entire Lehman Brothers and the 2008 recession is not a joke. Even today, it's a biggest case study for all of us. Now, the house loans bubble crack, all of them are very interesting things. So certain signals are actually moving. It's very, very, what do you call, understandable. And countries like India, either into financial market or the banking sector, we closely understood, and we are not into that kind of, debt ratio, and we are not into that kind of consumption and the consuming pattern. So we could save ourselves in many ways because our lifestyles are different. Our saving mechanisms are different. As a culture, we do save a lot. So I'm trying to give a different example altogether. So mostly certain kind of incidents and the events will actually drive us towards those change, because this is how we function further now onwards, right? Okay, so this type of change takes place in response to chain of events in organization. Since something else has happened, we will have to have this one. Since some other kind of incidents has happened, this will happen. Now, since ISRO has started becoming an exporter of the highest, level of things that it is selling, like, BrahMos and all. Since that has event, that the very vision is different from earlier to today. Earlier, ISRO was considered to be a space research institute. Today, it's an institute come as an exporter of the highest order of income, revenue generator for the country of India. It is not only institute, it is also a facilitator to the world. Whoever wants to do a space research, we can do it with a very minimum cost. Please do come to us. This particular business model was not created earlier. Since that particular now is a different vision altogether. Now the mission follows for that, by the action plan follows for that. Now you have got demand of a people asking you to do it. Then that is how the change is happening inside. The way you're recruiting people, the way you're functioning, the way you're ordering, the way you're training, the way you are actually processing, the way you are offering the services is altogether very different compared to 15 years ago. The ISRO's entire phase is different today. How many of you agree? The today's ISRO, the way it is functioning is so different from the earlier, because it is into space research. It's into the space of the space research. But the space research is never offering the services to the other countries. Rather never dreamt of. Rather, that was not on the vision plan. But today, it is on the vision plan. It is in the mission. It is an action plan of we will serve the other countries. We will try to give, missiles to others. Was not part of the vision plan, was not part of the action plan of earlier. Since certain kind of decisions made, incidents and events, and now the driving force, that's where the change. Now the today's institution called ISRO is altogether a very different game altogether. It's a highest revenue making organization for the country, right? If you see 2023-24 or even 22-23, highest revenue making has happened not by the commodities that we are selling, rice or any other, or the thing. It is highest thing is coming from your ammunition as well as your missiles that is being sold by ISRO, and some kind of designs are helping that has happened for some kind of rocket science ISRO has actually given. I felt, oh, what a shift in the entire process. That's where the change is. The change is so deliberate, though it is very subtle in a way that it is still acting as an institute of a research for the space, but it is facilitating and its revenue. It has become a revenue maker. Earlier, it is a revenue consumption. It used to consume for the research. It used to consume and do something for the India, but it's a revenue maker. How big shift it is. Now, that is what the events which make you to go further for a different kind of changes. Now, anticipatory change. What is anticipatory change? The change carried out with prior anticipation of chain of events happening in organization. That is also anticipatory. Now, we are all actually anticipating that the world tomorrow for the commuting, that means for the transportation, we all may enter into EVs, completely electronic, right? Electrical vehicles. So EVs can actually take over. So Tesla is the one which talked about, which dreamt about, which pioneered EVs, where not even other countries or other companies were thinking of. Rather, they cannot afford to be in the EVs those days, because Tesla has got its own muscle power and the bandwidth to do it. And now that's the first one to talk about it. And it has launched it, and it said that I will be there in the countries where that particular affordability is there. And Tesla is the first one to talk about certain things, right? The change is because EV is going to be the fossil fuels are going to be the over, and then we are consuming too much of fossil fuel. And we will go into the area of EVs. And since it is EVs is going to be the future, I will be there in that area. Now that is where the anticipatory change is what your business model. Now you are anticipating the changes, and that is what you want to do. So your Chat GPT and AI is nothing but anticipatory change process, because all the softwares which you think that this is not the end of it. We will try to bring AI. It is your what do you call hologram or virtual reality, VR and AR, augmented reality and VR. All of them will be part of your mainstream activities today. And that is what anticipatory. People are sitting right from 20 years, they're into AR and VR, but that is not become that has not become the mainstream. They know that it will become the mainstream, but it will take the entire ecosystem of that particular technology to catch up with, all the ancillary units and other peripheries to catch up with, to make that particular technology mainstream. You need the entire other ecosystem and the social and the people using that kind of things, affordability. All of them should go hand in hand as an ecosystem which has to grow. Only then this will be, but anticipatory. We are going to have it. So in a very proportionate way, people were actually investing in that kind of organizations or that kind of startups or, companies. Today, it has become 50-50. People know that it's becoming mainstream. It will take over within in such a way that we will be so forced. It's already being taken over, because you have ethical code of conduct are being rewritten and looked at when your plagiarism, when your designs, other things, or even writing a speech or writing a book, or even a new idea, whether it is Chat GPT 1 or if it is AI based or it is a human intervention. There are going to be so many checkpoints. Now, what is it? Anticipatory change is something that you are expecting the entire segment or a sector to function in such a way, or new interventions will come, new radical changes will come, or a new innovations that you cannot stop it. Right? That irresistible change can happen because the new things are going to happen and we are waiting for it. There's a sentence that the Hollywood director said one time. I cannot recall his name, but I can recall his name. Movie, Inception. How many of you have seen that movie, Inception? It's a beautiful movie. Yes. So he said that, that's interesting. He said, the idea of making Inception did strike to me 12 years back, he said. But I know that if I have to make Inception the way I made it today, the system, the ecosystem, the technology was not ready. So I shelved the idea to make this because the periphery is not ready. Interesting. Anticipated. So when the industry is going to be ready, I will come with that idea. So people, there are so many visionaries, there are so many people, those who have got beautiful, interesting ideas, are very technologically advanced ideas, but they know that even to talk about it, to explain, to demonstrate, the existing technology is not ready to showcase it. That's where they say that, no, it's, I know that I'm anticipating at this level. If you are really good in understanding it, I think you can even listen to or even read some of the books called Michio Kaku. He's a physicist. He talks about the global shift of the changes and innovation that can happen. The world can actually consume the same product, and these the brands and the branding as a process will go massive shift. The entire globe will talk about into one language of a brand. These are certain things that he talked about, and his talks and his books are also very interesting in terms of, he's a physicist, but he also talks about more of a shift of a market, the way global scenario can take place, right? It's an anticipated change. Next one is a planned change. Okay. Now, this is a type of change is regarded as development change, which have the objective of improving present ways in organization. So the way we are doing, let's say that India, the way it is actually doing, it has got current wires everywhere, right? Your power lines are everywhere hanging. India also can have changes, but it can only go for a planned change, because that is your current scenario, your affordability, and you know the pace of it, and you know how much of work can be done with all the people to get into understanding of your underground pipelines or whatever it is, right? So I just gave you a very common consumed idea of how electric wires hanging there in India can be moved to a different direction, and then maybe we can go for an underground thing. But it takes time. So certain things, even in organization, can go for a planned change because it's in your limits, and you know that you can take different pace, and you can increase the pace of the intensity of the change after some point. That, looking at your financial health, that is your pocket money, that is your financial capacity to allocate certain kind of funds to a change, looking at the people that are on board also can take that kind of intensity of the change. So it's a very planned change. All the four of them, I'll try to cover it again or quickly talk about is happened change, which has happened. You have no control. That's already happened. It's already there in your, on your face and on your doorstep that you have to take it. So that's how it has happened for Android kind of thing to Nokia, and smartphones and other things that has happened to Nokia, as well as the film versus the digital camera thing. Kodak kind of people had to go back to, they had to pack bags. So this has happened change. Next one is reactive change. So you are trying to react to that particular change the way it is, because it's unfolding. In response to chain of events, as I said, Lehman Brothers and others, it's a response. It's internally people are consuming, or you are not ready. There's a debt combinations that you are not taking care of. Whatever it is, the direction was wrong. So it will definitely collapse. So you will try to take measures of it, right? If you don't take it, it will be a fall, complete fallout, right? Now, anticipatory change, I gave an example of, Tesla being the pioneer in the EV because he anticipated, and everybody has anticipated, but he has got that kind of capacity to afford, and his vision to be in that particular very selective niche market of an EV, and apart from the very different levels of a car making, he could afford to it, and he did it. And today, when we say that down the line 5 years, EVs will become mainstream. Now today, every 7th car or 8th car out of 10 is nothing but your EVs or something. Like, means that pollution control and the EVs will increase its thing, and fossil fuels consumption come down, and the petroleum or the, cartels of the oil industry, OPEC countries, in the way that they control the market of the world in the name of the fossil fuels having in their hands, maybe the whole geopolitical strategies or geopolitical politics will go into a very different direction when the fossil fuel consumption will go down, and or your prices are too high, then people would like to go for a more EV. These are very anticipated change, and some companies will jump into it, and because they anticipate that, right? Next one is a planned change. So the way that you plan, the way you have your capacity, say that, okay, mainstream, we will do it, but internally certain very constructive fundamental changes can go for it, and we will go intensity wise, we will try to increase intensity of change or a pace of the change, we will say, according to our capacity, our R&D's level, our technical prowess, our money especially. More importantly, how much of money that you can. I think we discussed this. The level of preparedness for companies of India in the biotech kind of companies. So when COVID has hit, you have to come out with drug and antidote or vaccine. Vaccine is not a joke because it needs a lot of experiment. It needs a lot of research. And those companies were ready and they jumped into it, and they have given within 6 months. It's not a joke for all of us. Actually, less than 6 months, I think they've come up with a vaccine. And of course, it's not immediately being accepted because it's coming from India. They know that a huge market, if they have their own homegrown vaccine, they will not buy the American thing. That's a very different game altogether. But what I say is, their preparedness to give a vaccine within 6 months is not a joke. That explains a lot about companies' preparedness for a lot of R&D interventions, which is going. Unless you are actually going on with so much of research on hand with varieties of things, you cannot come and actually do the rescue operation and provide the vaccine for the entire country is not a joke. So my appreciation for people, those who are on to a daily basis, on a mundane basis, on a regular R&D change, innovations and interventions are happening in your labs. And that's the reason when crisis comes and it hits and you are being asked something, you can provide it within 1 month or 2 months or 3 months is appreciable. We have to salute for these people, these companies, those are really, if they're a research bound institute and they're doing it, that's a result of it. India has got a vaccine on time. India is in need of vaccines. Maybe other countries in Europe, they were not having it. They didn't take it. It's okay for them. But the point of India, we do have a couple of challenges of hygiene challenges in India. So we need to have that kind of thing. And people today are really, really so surprised to look at that the way, the scale of operations of India, that all of us have gone for 2 vaccines straight away is not a joke. And the implementation. So what I say is, unless you're ready internally with a lot of regularly doing a lot of change in implementation of research innovation or a product innovation, design innovation, or a creative or a, improvisation is happening daily, you may not actually take that particular sudden strike or a sudden thing which is happening from the external force, you may not come up with. So it's up to you. So it's planned change also part of your change. Okay. I think I'll stop over here. Anyone who wants to say anything? How did it go? Well? Went on well today?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple of things for the reminding is, please do read the case of Boeing 787 Dreamliner. Come with the pointers straight away. First 10 to 15 minutes, we will consider to consume our discussion point on the 787 Dreamliner. Please do tell others, those who are absent today, let them not say that I'm not there, so I'm not. No, let more people contribute and discuss. I think we will have a beautiful discussion platform for learning and teaching. Is it okay? All of you, yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you. I'll close it now. Bye-bye.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.